Today's Christmas.
Christmas 2021?
Yep.
Almost in 2022.
So yesterday, I feel like the context needs to be established because this is very interesting, which is I got to Switzerland 3 days ago.
2 days ago.
2 days ago.
Feels like a week ago.
Feels like a week ago. Feels like I've been here forever. Nice place. Which was a mess because I got through 3 blah blah cars, and then 2 of them rejected. No, 3 of them failed. Like 3 of them fell through, and then the 4th one worked out, which was this nice guy. And now I got here, and then I was in the train station at Annemasse because I went from Paris to Annemasse, which is still in France, and then went from Annemasse to Dange, which is a suburb of Lausanne, and
That's where I live.
that's where Ben lives.
That is where we currently are located.
Yeah, and that was a mess because I was in the train station for about an hour trying to call the French government to get my healthcare worked out because I can't start my stage. Or it's probably going to work where I'm going to be able to start, but it's going to create an administrative nightmare because I still have my provisional healthcare rights expired, and I needed to call them today because they're closed for the holidays after today. So I called them at 4, was on hold in the train station for 30 minutes, and then after 30 minutes goes by, the lady answers the phone, and I give her my information. I say, hey, I was supposed to have my healthcare rights by now, and I don't have them. And then eventually she said, okay, I'm going to put you on hold for a second, and afterwards I'll be right back and we'll get your situation worked out. So then she puts me on hold, and about a minute and a half later, the phone call resets. I get the automated questioning system to start asking me, hey, put in your information. Who do you want to talk to today? And she ended the call on me. And I wasted an hour of my time in the NMS train station until I got to Switzerland. So then we got here, and that was nice. We went to the gym, which was cool. And
Good workout.
Yeah, it was a good workout. But we should describe this because I want to document the COVID situation, how this was.
Yeah.
So we walked in the building, and the guy asked us for our pass sanitaire. We give him the pass sanitaire, and then everybody in the gym is pretty much maskless. Mm-hmm. But then there's that dude who came in at the end. Because what's the rule in Switzerland?
The rule now is that you have to have either had COVID or have been vaccinated within the last 4 months in order to be maskless, in a gym. Already in closed spaces, you have to have a mask no matter what. Mm-hmm. But if you're in an experience where you're working out or doing some kind of athletic activity inside, you don't need it. But now they've changed that to you have to be vaccinated or recovered from COVID within the last 4 months.
Yep. And when did you get the vaccine?
I got the vaccine about 6 months ago.
I also got the vaccine. I think I got mine. I got the second dose on June 24th.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah, I think that was June 7th or June 4th. So
yeah. So we're definitely past that limit.
Yeah.
And I definitely bet that's the case for most people, which was really funny because there's this fucking guy who comes in. This 50-year-old security guy walks in. There's a bunch of ripped dudes in their 20s who are mad strong. This guy comes in. First thing he says is, hey, whose bag is that outside? Everybody's put their head down and shit. What's going on? Then the one guy goes out and just okay, it's my bag.
The guy's just
the fucking security guard shaking his head. And then afterwards, they get the bag fucking fiasco sorted out with the bag in the hallway. He comes back into the gym and says, hey, on est tous vaccinés ici, hein? We're all vaccinated, right? In the last 4 months, because we're trusting you. We're trusting you, right? Everyone here's got vaccinated in the last 4 months. And everyone's like, yes, sir.
He starts walking around. He's like, I could check. He walks up to each person. He's like, hey, are you vaccinated in the last 4 months? Walks up to the next person. How about you? And then everyone kind of slowly starts putting their masks on one by one.
Yeah. And then he leaves, and then it was back to maskless workouts. Mm-hmm. But that was nice. And then... So then we got back here, and the situation is more interesting because one of these dudes in the apartment, this dude Billy, great guy,
great man,
tested positive for COVID. Oh, is he here? Do you think he went back to Geneva?
He's here. He's staying here tonight. So to go back in time, this dude Vili, who I live with, half Finnish, half Swiss, he has been sick for 3 months. He got tested maybe a month and a half ago, didn't have COVID. He was like sneezing, maybe coughing a bit. But the last week, his cough like heavily intensified. Like he's been coughing every single day. Like sounds like he's about to hawk up a lung. So we're like, bro, like you should get tested. And so it's Christmas, obviously. So he was gonna go yesterday to his chalet in the mountains. And before he went, he did one of the at-home tests, just to see if he had COVID, and that was positive. And now, like, they're not the most reliable things in the world, but if it's positive, like, you know, you at least need to get another test. So he went today to get a PCR test. We'll know the results of that tomorrow. But like, he's been coughing. At-home test was positive. We're almost like certain that this dude has COVID.
Right.
So that was like a big bomb that kind of got dropped on us. Now, me personally, I don't mind like getting COVID at all. Like in the grand scheme of things, I'm vaccinated. It's probably not going to affect me that hard. I'll probably be sick for a couple
It's not
days.
the fear of the disease. It's
not
the fallout consequences of getting COVID.
I'm not afraid of COVID. A few weeks ago, I had symptoms. I had a sore throat, runny nose, same symptoms as my mom who had COVID at the time. So I go to get tested. And got a PCR, got my results back. First thing the next morning, negative. I was a little bit disappointed. Like, I felt like getting it 2 weeks before the holidays so that I would be like fine. Know that I wouldn't get it for the holidays. That would have been like not the worst thing in the world. Like, I wouldn't have been too disappointed. But now, here we are in Switzerland, and Mia, my girlfriend, is coming here next week. We're doing long distance, so she's in Boston right now.
When was the last time you saw her?
Well, she's in Florida right now.
Is she in Florida?
Yeah, she's
Damn.
because her mom has a place in Sarasota, so they're spending Christmas there. Yeah, she just got it like a year ago or so, it's like newish. But
when was the last time you saw her?
I saw her in October. I went home to the U.S. for a few weeks.
Right.
So we spent.
And why? Because it's also interesting for COVID.
Yeah, I was supposed to graduate in 2020 from my bachelor at Boston University, and then it got moved back, the graduation, because of COVID.
Yeah.
Like I was the COVID semester, the first one where I was supposed to graduate.
So there's no ceremony. So you went back just for the ceremony.
No ceremony. I got my degree.
Did they read everybody's names one at a time?
They did for our like College of Arts and Sciences, which was like hundreds of people. It was like the worst thing ever.
Yeah.
Me and Tolu were just like sitting there and.
Were you just sleeping?
What?
Were you guys sleeping?
Nah, we were just cracking jokes the whole time.
Dude, I was like
at least it wasn't like we did it in alphabetical order. You could just sit wherever you wanted, so that was nice. So I could sit.
So you went up in line and then you gave them the
thing, and they had on the sticker like not only the name but also like how to pronounce it, just in case it wasn't like.
They did the Ithaca too for us.
And they still fucked up Tolu so bad. I feel
really?
so bad for that guy.
Yeah,
like,
what'd they say?
So his name is like Toluwashe Afulayan.
Okay.
And so the Toluwashe, it wasn't perfect. I don't remember exactly what they said, but maybe like they messed up one of the sounds maybe.
Yeah.
Not like the worst botch in the world, but like still not perfect, which like it should be because you have it right there. But the last name, like there was like an M in there. There's no M's in his last name. Like it was bad. Like
that's funny.
It wasn't even close. Of course, like you got to feel bad for the person reading names. Like they're just getting handed card after card after card. But like that's your job, you know.
Yeah, I have to explain to the Europeans that there is a nightmare in like John F. Kennedy Middle School and Proctor Thomas R. High School of being a substitute teacher because you have to read everybody's name in the classroom and you've never met these people before. And there's like Russian names, Bosnian names, like
freaking Burmese names.
Burmese names, like people from Laos. And yeah, all of the names gets botched all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So anyways, I went home in October, had a great time, went to Boston, spent most of the time in Utica, spent 3 weekends in Boston, 1 weekend in Utica.
Oh, you were back for that long?
I was back for 3-4 weeks, yeah.
Wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah,
Nice.
I worked remote.
And they let you do it? Because remember you were talking about they might break my balls about working remote.
They did break my balls for the 3rd week I was there, because originally I was going for 2 weeks, and then I was like, my supervisor is on vacation anyways.
Oh.
So like,
why not just work from home?
Yeah, why not just keep working
not
from
going to
home?
be communicating in the office even if I'm there.
Exactly. So then my boss was like, nah, like I don't care, but like my boss gives a shit, which that sucks.
Yep.
Bureaucracy.
Yeah, there's some interesting things about that because I was talking to a professor because I'm supposed to do my stage, my internship, like with a professor working in Nice, and I told the guy, I said, Marco, I want to stay in Paris next semester. Is that okay? Or like, I'll come to Nice like once or twice. Like, I'm okay even like paying for like the transportation, the housing, like out of pocket. Like, I prefer staying in Paris because I don't want to find housing again. Like, if I got more friends in Paris, it's gonna be better. And he was like, yeah, sure, it's gonna be okay. And granted, like, we've already gone through the testing that like it's okay. Like, we've got a good rapport working from distance, because the summer he was in Nice for the first week and a half. And then for the entire rest of the summer, he was in Greece.
Yeah.
So I literally was working completely independent from him with like minimal communication over the course of like 2 weeks. Then I would send him like a big report, and like we had pretty much the proof of concept in there. And I was explaining this to a couple of professors at the Paris Observatory, and some people are pretty uncomfortable with the idea, and they think that automatically if you're working remote and like with minimal contact, it means you're going to be unmotivated, unproductive, nothing's going to get done, and I mean, that's definitely true and like the case for some people, but
That's why communication is key.
that's why communication is key. But like, not for me. I believe in liberty, and I like my work, so like it's okay. Like, I'm gonna get this shit done. Like, it's important to me. It's not like yeah. Granted, like people who are not working too well, it doesn't mean they necessarily like their work. It's just like, damn, I'm alone in my Paris apartment, which is 18 square meters. And my bed is right next to my kitchen sink, which is right next to my toilet, which is right next to the entrance to my apartment.
Yeah.
So like, I understand those are like subprime conditions, but I'm going to be working at the Paris Observatory surrounded by astronomers, just like,
You're gonna go.
yeah,
there.
I'm still going to go to like in-site, but the people that I'm going to be surrounded by and sharing an office with are not going to be
Your colleagues.
working on the same project. Yeah.
That's nice.
Yep. But
Yeah.
they were like, fuck you, Ben.
They're like, fuck you, Ben. I mean, on the downside, like, you know, I had to waste a couple of vacation days, because I did stay the third week.
You just had to use your vacation time.
I just had to use my vacation time.
Do you think if you didn't use the vacation time, you would have been working productively anyway?
Yeah, I mean, I worked fine the first 2 weeks that I was home.
Right, that's true. So there's the proof of concept.
Yeah,
Oh,
exactly.
that's so frustrating. Yeah.
Like, I met with my supervisor. It's kind of weird because I'm working with Arma Suisse, which is like the branch of the Swiss government that does acquisitions of like materials and software for the Swiss army. Like, that's officially what their title is. And then Swiss Topo, which is the organization that makes the maps for Switzerland. So technically I'm employed by Arma Suisse, but I'm doing the project for Swiss Topo. So we're kind of like their contractor, sort of. It's a weird relationship. So on a day-to-day basis, like, I'm asking questions to and doing my weekly meetings.
Swiss Topo.
With Swiss Topo. And then the guy at Arma Suisse just wants to like make sure that they're satisfied, wants to make sure that I'm working like fine, but we really
And that's your boss's boss, is the Arma Suisse.
No.
Your boss's
Arma
boss
Suisse
is
and
Topo.
Swiss Topo. Yes, sorry.
Okay, so your boss's boss is
Yes.
with. So he
With
probably
Arma
thinks that's a sign of like not being seriousness if you're working from the States. Do you think that's kind of his
Not
mentality?
even from the States, just working from home in general.
Right,
like,
remotely.
You have to, that's like a general rule that we have is like, if you want to work from home, like if you have a doctor's appointment and you want to work a half day from home, just ask like a week in advance. Like if you're sick, like stay home, but it's not like, yo, like you can just work from home 2 days a week. I think maybe part of the reason is because last semester everything was online, and maybe they did see that like they had lower productivity.
Yeah.
I don't know. I know that like a lot of studies have shown that productivity has stayed the same or been more in general.
Yeah.
But maybe they just had like a bad time with it.
Yeah. What do you think the perfect? Because I think the perfect like thing is like 2 or 3 days a week in the office and 2 days home.
That's literally what I want.
Yeah.
Like, I just want the freedom and flexibility. Like if I just wake up like a little bit late one day, or if I wake up and I'm just like, man, I don't want to go there.
Yeah.
I just kind of want to like stay in this hoodie and just like work and like drink a coffee downstairs.
Yeah. Sometimes there's those dudes in the office with those lame jokes at the water fountain you just need to avoid.
Exactly. that's precisely it. No, yeah, but you know, you just have to like carry a level of professionalism and like I just want to do the work, you know.
Right.
I do like my colleagues, which is why I like going.
Yeah, no, sometimes you gotta go in there and like talking to people to use them as sounding boards for your problems, which is kind of the downside of not of like being 100% remote.
Yeah, exactly.
So that's why I feel like some days in the office, some days out is kind of like the best of both worlds.
Hybrid is prime, yeah.
Yeah.
So that's what I would have loved. That's not really what they have. I had to ask like a month in advance to get 2 weeks of remote work. And then when I was home, I realized like, hey, like my Swiss Topo guy is not here for another week. So like, why not just stay here? And the thing is like, we're not even in the same office anyways.
Yeah.
Me and the Swiss Topo guy.
Yeah.
Like he's in Bern. So
So like maybe you meet like once a week or some shit like that anyway.
all on Zoom. Like I've
it's
met
all-
this guy 3 times.
Really? So even when you're in the office, you're still working with that guy remotely,
Yeah.
and that's like your primary
Exactly. So
primary source of interaction through your work.
So there's literally no reason for me to be in the office. My boss at Arma Suisse is he's busy with other things, and he's kind of like hands off. I mean, like I like him, and like we do talk about my project. We'll sit down for like an hour, like once a month maybe, and I'll just take him through all these things. He's very smart. He's a physics guy. He was at CERN for like 8 years. So like he
Great guy.
yeah, great guy. He understands like the technical parts of problems as well as like the organizational parts. So that was like he's always helpful to work through things. Anyway, his boss, who I've only met once, he doesn't like for people to work from home. But now, because of COVID, we're forced to work from home. So it went from 100% at work, no exceptions, to 100% at home.
No exceptions.
Well, that's where it's kind of like crazy. Is this dude Kona, who's my boss at Arma Suisse, and then like a couple other people, just like they allegedly don't have good at-home situations, so they just still go to the office anyways.
Interesting. Do they have to like go through? Are they working through EPFL? Like, because I know the offices are near. Okay. Do they still have to like ask permission to a higher power to be able to go in person?
I think they are the higher power. Like
Nice.
at the
We have
Lausanne
the
office,
power.
they're the higher
Yeah.
ups. Like, and like technically they probably should work from home, but like it's okay, and like I don't really care. Like they can do whatever they want.
Nice.
But yeah, I went in like one time for a meeting last week, and like I went into I had to translate. Like these people wrote this document in English. These French speaking people.
Francophones.
Yeah, these
Les
francophones.
Français.
And they wrote this document. It was a classified document.
Nice.
In
Dude, don't tell me
English.
the contents.
I won't tell you the contents, but they wrote the English. They wrote it in English, and it was poorly written.
Yeah.
So Conan wanted me to come in and just correct the English, and it was like a 35-page document.
Wow.
It took like 3 hours. He was like, it'd be like an hour, and then I just skimmed it, and there was
Those
one
errors.
section of like 8 pages that I didn't have to read. So like 27 pages skimming, and it still took 3 hours.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's crazy. Like because there were a few sentences where it's like
You don't even know what they're
I don't even know
properly
what they're
trying to say. Yeah. Yeah. No, I found that to be a particularly big issue because like there's a lot of words that come from French, but we don't use them. So I feel like you know what I mean.
Like they use amalgamation, which like of course it's like a word that I know.
Yeah, like an amalgam is like a
I
big
would
mix of things,
never
right?
use it.
Yeah, that's something I remember learning that word when I was reading a book, and I was like, "What the fuck is an amalgam?" Right? It's like I had to look that up, and so that's not something that I feel like you can assume is like a baseline word that most English speakers would use, and particularly, and even so, like even non-native English speakers looking at that document, right? Because that's something that I realized about coming through Europe. Because I've heard before coming here, people say like the French aren't good at English, or like the Italians aren't good at English, or Russian people aren't good at English. And I always kind of thought that was coming from the perspective of native English speakers shitting on them, which I realized pretty quickly was one of those subconscious assumptions I didn't even realize I had, is not true at all. This is other non-native English speakers criticizing like other non-native English speakers, right? So if you're like Polish and you're reading this document and you're like amalgamation and like sure this is a word that's like technically in the English dictionary doesn't really make sense, but it makes perfect sense in French, like that's going to be even harder barrier than like if it were like a native English speaker looking at it.
Because like I know the word, it's just I wouldn't use it. So like, and the thing is, Conan kind of told me to make it so that like the Polish speakers would be able to understand it. Like just simplify what they said.
Yeah, no, that's like the perfect level of like written and technical English because it has to be made such that everybody can understand it. Because then there's the opposite, like too much of a non-native English speaker writing it, it's gonna be too, like you don't even know if this is an expression or not. You know, like is this something like somebody's gonna understand? Like is this technical language or is it too local and specific to what I know? Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice.
Anyways, so the nice thing about the vacation that I took at home was I got to chill in Utica for a few more
Did
days.
you see Joey? No, because he was in Ireland.
No, he was in Ireland, but I saw him in Paris the next week.
Yeah, Joey was in Paris.
Hey Joey.
Fellas in Paris.
If you're listening.
Yeah.
How's it going, bro?
I love Joey.
I love that guy. Anyways, but yeah, it was a good time. We went to Binghamton and got a cat for Tolu.
I remember that story.
Yeah.
Why?
It was hypoallergenic. Apparently hypoallergenic cats don't exist, but there are cats that produce less of a certain type of protein that produce less allergens. But unless you have a hairless cat, there's
Bro, is
never
Toad still sneezing with the cat?
I don't know.
We gotta ask him.
Yeah, we gotta ask him.
Yeah.
Then so I was in the US. I saw Mia then. So back to the present time.
Yeah.
Where were we?
So we're talking about how, all right, so I got here 2 days ago, and then we all have dinner. It's me, you, Alicia, and Vili, and then we find out a couple hours later. Was it the next morning or a couple hours later?
When we first got here, the first night, me, Sal, and then two of my roommates, Vili, the COVID positive guy, and Paul,
yeah.
we all had dinner together. Paul and Alicia are an item now, so they are...
They're not official yet, so we gotta be careful.
They're not official, but the reason why I want to state
Sparks
this...
fly.
No, the reason why I wanted to state this... Sparks have been zooming around.
Yeah.
But the reason why I wanted to state this is because they've been, in any case, exchanging germs.
Yes.
That's the important part to the story. One of the important parts.
Also the next morning, right?
Right. So then, so the four of us eat dinner. Vili was like kind of coughing. To be honest, I've heard this dude coughing really intensely the entire last week. So like he was sitting here the other day. I just ate breakfast on the couch because I was not trying to like catch COVID right now. The reason why I don't want to get COVID right now is because Mia's coming next week here, and
her mom.
First of all, we plan to go to Paris. We plan to go to an Airbnb in the middle of Switzerland, like literally in the middle. Like if you look at the map, like the actual geographical center of Switzerland is
after
like
Paris,
like 1.5 kilometers away. We're gonna go to Paris for that this weekend, or next weekend, and then we're gonna come back to Switzerland. I'm gonna work for a week, and then we're gonna go to the middle point for like 4 days. I'll take like my last 2 vacation days, and we'll be like over there in an Airbnb, and we'll spend 4 days.
Nice.
And then she'll leave on like the 14th. But first of all, the plans to go to Paris and to the middle place are like I wouldn't really be able to if I had COVID, obviously.
Yeah, crossing borders, even though it's Schengen zone and we have free movement.
Yeah, and also just like if I have COVID, I just have
Yeah,
to.
that's not responsible. You should be home quarantined. Yeah.
And then there's the fact that Mia's mom stated that if I test positive, Mia can't come here until I test negative.
And that was a huge hit.
That's a huge hit.
I remember hearing that and I was like, damn, that's crazy.
Yeah.
Because I kind of got in this mindset where after the vaccine, it was hard for me to take the COVID as seriously as before. Because I remember when COVID first happened and me and Rose were living in that apartment, we went to go get the groceries. And this is before like masks were universally popular. I think I put like a fucking towel around my mask and like a big ass scarf just to act as some kind of barrier. And I remember it was falling and I didn't want to risk touching my face. Yeah. So I literally didn't adjust it. Like, 'cause that was the mindset. And then when we brought all of the things home, unpacking them, we wiped them down with sanitary wipes, you know?
Yeah, that's insane.
Isn't that? It was like,
it's so insane. Like,
yeah. And like, I can't even get close back into that mindset, you know? Like, I'm literally not worried at all after, because like Carmen had COVID asymptomatic.
And you guys have the same genes.
We got the same genes. I got the vaccine too, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I'm really like not quite worried even in the slightest. And yeah, it was really refreshing to hear somebody say that, hey, if this person like test positive for COVID, like you shouldn't go visit them. Because I was like, that makes sense. But I would not have reached that conclusion myself.
Yeah. Now, like, we did talk about maybe like she would come here, just accept that she might get it and quarantine with me.
Yep.
But then like her mom kind of shut down that idea, which like
makes sense. Like mother looking out for her daughter.
Yep. Anyways, so now it's like I can't get COVID. That's like the bottom line. Yeah. I've already eaten dinner next to VD like 3 days ago. And then Alicia had also said, Alicia is...
Oh, this was wild. Anyways, we're going to describe this in chronological order. So, we're on the phone with Mia.
Well, I want to say this first because Alicia told me the other day that she had been exposed to COVID. And I just didn't really think about it because like everyone gets exposed to COVID at some point.
I remember a couple months ago, I was eating chips with Eugenia and like one night, the next night comes around, she was like, or the next day comes around, she's like, I don't feel so good, goes and gets tested for COVID positive. And we were sharing food and like really close to each other. And then, you know, I went and got tested for COVID, no COVID, you know? So yeah, I understand. Like this person says I was exposed to somebody. It's gotten to the point right now where like, oh, like you've been exposed to somebody with COVID. It doesn't even really like, yeah, it's kind of wild. Before it would make me pretty nervous, but like literally after getting the vaccine, it doesn't really trigger anything in me anymore.
Yeah.
Like it did with Eugenia, like even though it was already like after being vaccinated. But since I've already gone through that experience of like being worried after being exposed to somebody COVID positive, I'm not able to reproduce the same amount of worry as I was before. Yeah. But in this case, so like the other day I understand, like Alicia says, hey, I have been exposed to COVID, and you were like, oh, that's nothing.
Yeah, that's nothing. This was like 3 days ago.
Yeah.
Probably.
Until now. Or like there's consequences associated with having COVID.
And now there's like consequences other than getting sick.
Yeah.
And so then Alicia goes home. So, well, yesterday we went to, in the morning.
Yeah, we woke up in the morning. We went to Lac Léman.
We went to Lac Léman, which is, so Léman,
Mm-hmm.
Caesar named it, or like the Romans named it way back in the day.
Uh-huh.
And in whatever the local language was, or in some language, Léman means lake. So it means lake.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
And that's why, like, usually they refer to it as Le Léman, like the lake, Le Léman. But
I've never heard that before.
it's lake.
Nice.
Like officially, it's Lac Léman.
Right. But in like Le Mans, in like French, is lac. So it's lac, or in English, lake.
Lake.
Nice.
Then
So we jump in the water.
we
right?
jump in the water. It was freaking
Oh, it was so cold.
It was so cold.
It was like 8 Celsius.
My balls shriveled up like into my body.
Yeah, I was getting a vacuum function going in there. So when it shriveled up and started going into my body, there was a less air pressure. So it started pulling the fabric of my shorts with it, as if it was a vacuum seal, and it hurt a lot.
I submerged myself like probably like 20 seconds after getting in there. Sal went under and I was like, I got to do it too. So I went underwater and struggled to breathe for the next 30 seconds.
It was so intense. My skin started to hurt a lot.
Yeah.
And when we got out of the water, we were all red.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My feet. And the thing was, after I got out of the water, I wasn't even cold. Like,
No, not at all.
Once we got out.
Yeah, once we dried off and I was standing out there, I was like,
fine.
wow, it's like probably 8 Celsius outside as well. Feels fine.
Yeah.
Like 40-degree day Fahrenheit, just
Except
wearing
for the
shorts.
feet.
Except for the feet. Feet was painful. It took a while to get feeling back in the feet. But
Yeah.
once it was there, I was like, wow, I feel
Yeah,
incredible.
once I got some nice wool socks on, I was feeling great.
Yeah. And then we were all in a circle. Me, you, Paul, Alicia, and then what was his name? Zoe. And we were sharing tea from the same canister.
From
passing that
this
shit
canister, this water bottle with a lion on it says, wow.
Nice. Who's our sponsor?
Oh, our sponsor today is All Natura Fine Blüte, which means fine fleur or fine flower.
Nice.
Yeah.
And this is
From biological agriculture.
nice. I love honey.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if this honey that we shared together had, or the tea had honey in it. I'm not sure. But either way, we shared the tea, and then afterwards, like, we didn't really know if Alicia. So anyway, like,
I
Alicia
wasn't even thinking about the
didn't
fact that
even cross
Alicia
my
could
mind.
have had COVID at that
didn't even
point.
cross my mind.
Yeah.
Yeah, wasn't even worried about it for a second. And then, so she was exposed like 3 days later, and then she came back here, and like we were all kind of hanging out together. And then I think it was when we came back we found out that Philly was COVID positive.
Yeah, we came back here. We're sitting here, me, Paul, Alicia, and Sal, and we're drinking coffee. You know, just having a good time. Vili texts like my group chat with my roommates and says, "Guys, I'm positive with the auto test, with the at-home test. I scheduled a PCR for tomorrow, but you guys should all test yourselves." I tried 2 auto tests.
This was so funny.
The first one, I didn't know what to do. Like both times, I got it in the
Put
nose.
that shit up
okay.
the nose.
It's so fucking uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And then both times I just fucked up the process after. I definitely should have read the directions more in depth before going. I was like, it's gotta be intuitive, right?
Yeah.
First time I wasn't able to like get the liquid in correctly.
Yeah.
Second time we went at it together and then we added too much liquid and then it got like saturated in parts where the test shouldn't have been saturated.
Yeah.
And the lines didn't pop up in the correct places.
Ruined the test.
Yeah, we ruined it.
We botched 2 COVID tests.
So we'll never know. I mean, we will because I have a test scheduled for tomorrow. So now it's Saturday. Mia is coming on Tuesday. I have a test tomorrow, and I also have a test scheduled for Monday. If my test tomorrow is negative, I'll cancel the one Monday. If it's positive, I'll also do the one on Monday.
Yep, just to be sure.
Just to be sure.
Yep.
Boy,
man, this is interesting because this is one of my favorite parts of the story of like the chronological order. So our original plan yesterday for Christmas Eve was go and jump in the lake, come back here, and then eventually maybe go to Geneva.
Well, Geneva would have been today.
Geneva would have been today. Yes, Geneva would have been today. And we were going to do that with Alicia's family. And so we're telling Mia this, and then Mia says, hey, like, Alicia's been exposed to COVID like you guys. Maybe it wouldn't be smart if you guys were to travel since you might have been exposed to COVID. And we were like, huh, that's interesting. So we're sort of thinking like, well, if one of us gets COVID and extracts it, we've already been in such proximity and like sharing drinks, maybe at this point we're all kind of having, so maybe like, it would make sense if we went to Alicia's house, since like, it effectively would be the same since we spent so much time together anyway. And then we're like, but okay, in any case, we should call Alicia, which was based on Mia's advice, which was a great idea, and just ask her what she thinks and like if she's comfortable with it and if her family's comfortable with it. So we call her, And then she
The
says,
first time, she was just starting to feel sick.
well, hold on, this is where it gets interesting because you said, hey, like, would your parents be okay since we might have been exposed to COVID? And she says, do you guys feel any symptoms? And we were like, no. And then she goes, I'm starting to feel a little bit of a headache. And that's when I was like, oh shit. That totally sidelined me. I did not expect to hear that at all.
Yeah. Yeah. Because she was exposed 3 days ago now, 4 days ago maybe.
Yep. And then again, like recently, like...
so now she's starting, and
now she's
then
starting
Vili, of course, and then...
Yeah.
Paul and Vili have been together for like the whole last, like, obviously we lived together.
Yep.
And then Paul and Alicia have been exchanging saliva. And then, so yeah, I mean, I don't know where she would have gotten sick from. Point is she got sick.
Yeah. So then she's like, maybe I need to talk to my family to ask them if they're even comfortable if like I'm going, and like ask them what the deal is. So she calls them, she talks to them, they're like, we're not even comfortable with you coming home. So then now this girl is like alone for like Christmas and doesn't know what to do because she explained this to me and I didn't understand at first, but she's got an apartment in Lausanne and also her family lives in Geneva, which is not that far apart. And so she just was kind of going to start staying in an apartment alone in Lausanne. She was like, maybe I can come back to your guys' place. So then she comes back here.
Well, I want to like talk about that phone call a little bit because I was like really caught off guard. Like this is when things were just happening really, really fast. And of course I felt terrible that Alicia had
been abandoned by her
she'd
family
been
for the
abandoned by her
holidays.
family. Last year she didn't have Christmas with her family because they were in a row. So like it was important to her. And of course like, her grandma would have been there and like isn't vaccinated. So like she, like her family didn't want her to come. Like that's terrible. She didn't have like anyone at home in Lausanne either. So then she says, can I come back to your place? And I was like thinking about it and I was like, man, like, yeah, I guess we've already been exposed to each other, like, because I felt really bad. But then this was around the time that Mia's mom said that if Mia tests positive, that she can't come. Or that I test positive, Mia can't come. And so then I'm like, fuck, like, I need to avoid COVID at all costs. Like, maybe I'm not infected yet, maybe I am, I don't know. But either way, like, I need to, from now on, keep my risk as low as possible. So then I like think about this more. I'm talking to Sal about it, and then after like 20 minutes or so, because Alicia had said like, I'm gonna come by like tonight. Is that okay if we eat dinner together? And I guess for some reason, like in my head, I was thinking that her family had said that she couldn't go to Geneva tomorrow. Like I wasn't even thinking about her plan tonight or like last night now.
Yep.
And so then. Like in my head, I was like, all right, we're gonna have like until tomorrow to like think about this. Then I realized she was coming tonight. She kind of like hit me over the head with that, and I just didn't know what to do. We talked about it more, and I kind of decided like I think it would probably be best if she didn't come. Like I need to stay away from COVID as much as possible. So then I call her back, and I'm like, hey, like I think it would be better if we stayed apart tonight. You didn't come here tonight. We maybe get tested tomorrow.
Oh, before she came here?
Yeah, I called her. I said this to her, and then she was like, and then I said like, then tomorrow night we can have like a dinner together. And she says, I'm already in Donge. I'm already in town.
I remember that. Yeah, she was like, I'm already like outside of your house.
Yeah, I'm already outside your house now.
Which is something I didn't expect because I thought she was, when we called her earlier, I thought she was in Geneva. Didn't realize she was in Lausanne. Well, maybe
she was in
that.
Lausanne, but I figured she would like wait 30 minutes, come back like in an hour.
She was ready.
She was ready.
She was like, I'm leaving the house now. I'm coming over.
So that was kind of crazy. So then she comes here and like we kind of hung out for like a little bit, like not that long, and then I started thinking about it more and I was just getting more and more uncomfortable. And then I was like, you know what, I'm also like very exhausted. I wasn't feeling well for sure, but it was because I slept 4 hours and then 4 hours like
jumping in the lake.
Nights. Yeah, and then jumped into the lake. Just had like 2 long days. I needed sleep. So I'm like, all right, I'm gonna just remove myself from the situation. I'm gonna go take a nap. So I went up, slept for like 40 minutes or so. Felt pretty good after.
So during this time, this was funny because like Alicia walks in and like I'm over there cooking because I was making the lasagna for Christmas.
Oh, this was before.
Oh no, this was before that. Yeah. What the fuck was I doing? I was doing something over there in the kitchen area. And then she comes over and she's like feeling super sad. She's like, oh, like I'm not gonna see my grandparents again, and like my family and stuff, and like I feel really bad because like I don't want to put anybody in pressure for like COVID stuff, and and I gave her a hug.
Oh my god.
Because I was like, oh, I feel so bad. And then she was like, thank you for hugging me. Like, I feel really bad. And like, I can't believe you're taking this risk for me. And I was just like, well, I feel really bad. Yeah. But it's I don't know. I feel so conflicted about how to handle COVID situations because I don't know. I feel like the personable, not like personableness, but seeing
The human aspect.
Yeah, the human aspect of seeing somebody suffer for fuck man, this girl needed a hug. She feels really bad. So I feel like it's interesting because I feel like in that situation I was able to do this, but I feel like that's one of those. I feel like this is really the first time I was exposed to a COVID risk. Well, not the first time. This is the first time knowing it, being aware of the situation. But yeah, I feel like I learned something about myself, because I was feeling I don't know how to put this into words, but other people would be get the fuck away from me, or which is reasonable, but that was something I was not able to do, which I think makes sense because typically I'm more of I will take on suffering for for other people and shit, because I'm very Catholic and that's what Jesus would do.
Happy birthday.
Yeah, happy birthday, Jesus. I miss you.
And then I came back down here after my nap. I was sitting over there. Alicia and VD were both at the table, the two probable COVID people.
Yeah.
Alicia was feeling worse by the minute. She said
Yeah.
she was starting to have a fever.
She said her skin started feeling hot.
Yeah.
And I was whoa, what the fuck? I was how does your skin start heating up?
Yeah. So I was sitting far away. I was down here for 10 minutes, and then both of them came over here, closer to me. I put on a mask. I was holy shit,
Yeah.
I hate being, I said this to Sal, I hate being the COVID narc person.
Yeah.
But this is the 1 week the entire year where I don't want to get COVID.
Yeah.
I'm obviously I'm not fiending for COVID at any time. But
Right.
this is the 1 week where I fully cannot get COVID. Right?
Yep.
So I just went back upstairs and laid in my room for 2 hours, maybe an hour and a half.
And then after the lasagna, we had dinner upstairs in the room alone.
Yeah. And then Paul's not even here. He went home for Christmas. He invited Alicia to stay in his room, which I don't know how I felt about that because personally I wasn't comfortable with all the COVID in the house. I love Alicia, great friend, super supportive. I just didn't feel comfortable with having first of all, Vili's already here. I didn't feel comfortable having another COVID positive person here. It wasn't me who invited her. It was Paul. So also I didn't want to go against Paul and be no, fuck you. I don't care what Paul said. Yeah, it was just a complicated situation all the way around because there's the human aspect and the COVID aspect.
I feel that's what the people were arguing in the beginning, which before I remember thinking this is pretty stupid because I remember it was you know the idea where it's the people who are at the most risk that are kind of the most careless, and it's kind of you think the older people and the stuff like that. I remember I watched this one video of this guy saying I'm not shutting down the economy. I'm not letting my grandkids be asocial by sitting home alone and turning potatoes. They need to see people and stuff, Mm-hmm. And it's dude, if you get COVID, you're dying, And I remember just thinking it's okay, we can be alone a little bit. It's not that big of a deal. It's more important to not get the disease and stop the spread. And that's what I was kind of aligned with. And then I was placed in a situation. I was damn, because I remember when the question got raised of if you look at the COVID issue holistically, if we go all out just trying to stop the virus, then there's other fallout associated with it.
Exactly, yeah. More people could die from overdoses and more people could die from suicide.
Yeah,
and depression and in general our happiness will go down as a society and you have to weigh these things.
Yep. So in that moment, I was sitting there looking at Lucy being mad sad, and I was damn, this is actual human suffering in front of me that I can see and is very tangible, and I guess weighting the balances, it's I will give this person a hug, because that is, I guess this is how my brain was weighing the decisions in the moment in terms of okay, this is the way to minimize the suffering or maximize happiness, Yeah.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
So I just laid in my room.
Yep.
We ate lasagna.
Upstairs. Yeah.
Then we went for a walk. That was nice.
Then we went for a walk outside, which is nice. We got the fresh air.
Vili got his PCR test today. Alicia left this morning.
Yeah.
It was also just I don't know. It just felt awkward.
Yeah. It's difficult. Yeah.
I was I'm sorry. I don't feel comfortable
Yeah.
really being here.
No, I think one thing is we've all four people definitely have like pretty like different mentalities about this issue as well, which is wild to be in. Because I feel like you were pretty uncomfortable, and I feel like I think I was a little too comfortable, which also made me like feel bad because I know this is a serious issue and I should be able to take it more seriously. So like. Well, I don't know, you know, it's just kind of what I was doing. So it's like I'm sitting in the couch, like I'm not sitting next to these people who have COVID, but like I'm staying away from them, but I'm not like staying upstairs and avoiding them. And then there was this dude, and then Billy's like, I'm drinking a beer and I'm having fun, and like those two are just sitting there talking to each other. And then Alicia's like, damn, I have COVID, but I don't want to be alone. I feel bad for like pushing myself and other people, like I'm not sure what to do. It was just kind of like a
it was just a shitty situation.
Yeah, it's just a shitty situation. Because in this situation, there's no right answers.
There's no,
There's no like clear, explicit right answers, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah. Which I feel like...
I mean, for me, like, it's like, I just need to stay away from the people who have COVID. Like, that's bottom line. Like, that's the right answer for me. But I understand that that's, like, personally the right thing to do.
Right.
That's not necessarily what's best for, like, you know, the people who are sick. And, like,
yeah.
Of course, you know, I don't know. It's tough.
Yeah. Yeah.
Tough things.
Yeah, it's tough
And this is the first time that I've truly been exposed to COVID. So like that as well, just not having the experience, like it's tough to navigate. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean like this is definitely different from when I got exposed with Eugenia because you know, I'm with her and then the first thing I did is she told me she was tested positive. So I was just like a part of me was a little bit like okay, it's go time. You know? Like I've been mentally prepared for this for such a long time now. So I was like, okay, I'm going to text everybody who I might have exposed secondhand and I'm going to go to the pharmacy right now and get a test. And so I did that, you know? And then, you know, which is different than today because it's fucking Christmas and Christmas Eve. And so it became pretty inaccessible to get a test versus like in October, I just walked to the pharmacy and got the rapid one right away.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I got the rapid test.
The cases, for those of you listening in the future, the cases are also popping off right now.
Oh yeah, we're at COVID high right now. This is like the fourth wave.
It's actually going down a bit in Switzerland now, but they're still extremely high, like higher than they were a year ago.
Yeah. Yep.
Deaths are much lower though.
Yeah, deaths are much lower. So yeah, like we're not worried about the disease. It's just the fallout associated with the COVID. Because also, like, if Mia can't make it right now, when do you think the next time you would see her would be?
She's gonna come now anyways, because in the worst case scenario, I'll have to quarantine for 10 days.
Oh, so you think she's gonna make the flight?
Not necessarily tomorrow, but she's just gonna come whenever.
So she's gonna come in January whenever it would work out.
Yeah.
Ah, okay.
So like I'll get to see her, but like
okay,
still,
but like
it's,
so
like,
the
it's
holidays.
a huge hassle for
yeah,
everyone.
like I want to go to New Year. We want to do New Year's in Paris. Like all this cool shit that could happen would be great.
And it would be a major hassle for me.
Plus, like you're taking your vacation days now, right? And so if Mia comes later, you'd have probably less vacation days to work with.
I can change my vacation days. It's flexible.
I see.
But yeah.
Yeah. No, it's just ass. It's just ass. Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, that's kind of where we're at right now. Just like waiting around. I would say like, how do you feel? Do you feel good?
I feel like we don't have COVID. I must say that.
Not convinced. Like,
yeah.
I do have like, I've had a tiny bit of like scratchy throat. I wouldn't even call it a sore throat.
Yeah.
It's like on the way. It's like when you wake up in the middle of the night and you haven't had enough water. I feel like I've had that most of the day today.
Yeah.
Maybe I just need to drink water.
Yeah. I had that when Eugenia said to me that she had COVID. And, but I also had that for like a long period of time before and after. And I think that was become from the air quality in Paris, which I don't have right now actually. So it's actually interesting to remember, like my throat isn't scratchy and it hasn't been like this for a week. And so I actually feel really good and like really physically well. I think this morning when I woke up, I had a very slight headache. But as soon as I had water and coffee, like I was fine, you know? But it really could be the case that we might get and be asymptomatic, you know, because that's what Carmen was.
Yeah.
But I don't know, like because Alessia today says she feels fine. You know? So it could be the case that she had like a 24-hour bug or like kind of placebo tricking her into it.
She's also had it one time and has the vaccine twice.
Ah, yeah, that's something we were talking about before too.
If she were to get it, I'm sure it wouldn't be there for
it would be mild and like not long term. But that's something we were talking about too, which is, yeah, the other aspect we were talking about COVID. Because, yeah, like I wanted to record this conversation to kind of like put a marker as in like, what is it like to live through COVID? And this is definitely the most personal ways COVID is like influenced like a couple days. Obviously, there's more grand scheme things like you're gonna stay home for the next 2 months, you know, and not go to the classes in person, or like you're not coming into work anymore. Like those big things that affect everybody. But this is the most you know, pinpointed at me in a situation I feel like it's been in. So I wanted to like document this because I think it's interesting. But then there's the other aspects about this issue which are more kind of global and like big trends and stuff, you know? Because we were talking about yesterday a lot where it's difficult to know what exactly is the right information. Like, you know, you were saying earlier, which this is like pretty clear empirical data, you don't need a robust statistical analysis to know what the right answer is, because you can see, okay, cases are popping off right now, but there's very little deaths associated with this Omicron variant. So like, that's a pretty solid statistic, you know?
Yeah, so far in South Africa, and I looked at Great Britain as well because they're a bit ahead of the US, and they also have like such low deaths compared to what they did in previous waves.
Yep.
Now, granted in both cases, the UK one, their last huge wave was pre-vaccine for most people. So I don't know how much of the diminishing number
it's due to
of
the
deaths is
vaccine.
because of the vaccine or because of Omicron variant.
Yeah.
But either way, it's much lower, like super low.
Right.
South Africa in this previous wave, now granted they only have 30% vaccination, so maybe this would be the best
way to gauge the death rate of Omicron.
They have had 4 major peaks of cases. And every single time, because they're ahead of us now, they were the first one to
Get
have an
this
outbreak
fourth,
of Omicron, and so with all three of the first 3 waves, there was a big spike in deaths as well.
Yeah.
But for this 4th one, barely any deaths. I mean, like you look at the graph, and it's an 1/8 of what the previous ones were.
Yeah.
Maybe a 1/10. Like it's that low. Like you can't even tell that. If you were to just look at the deaths, you wouldn't think that there was a wave right now.
Yep.
The U.S. So what's interesting with the U.S. is that right around Thanksgiving we started detecting Omicron, and around that time, 1% of cases, or maybe first week of December. I think I heard this about a week ago, and they said that this happened within 2 weeks. So say around 1st December. There was 1% of the cases detected in the U.S. were Omicron, and the rest were Delta. Within 2 weeks, it was 73% of detected cases were Omicron, and 27 were Delta. So this shit is spreading like wildfire. Like it overtook the Delta variant. So if you look at the U.S. deaths now, they're still pretty high. They're still at like 1,000 per day, which again isn't as high as they were last year because we do have the vaccine. But I think that the reason why the deaths aren't as low in the U.S., one, we have like bad health, but like 2 is the fact that I think we're still seeing the remnants from the fact that 2 or 3 weeks ago the majority of cases were Delta. I think we're still seeing deaths from that. So I think the next week or 2 in data will be critical in telling us in the US and in Britain in how deadly
dangerous
Omicron
actually is.
So I think that right now we can't fully answer that question. They have done like some research on like the Omicron and like how it spreads in the lungs versus the other variants, and it spreads more in the upper respiratory system, which means that it spreads faster. When you sing and talk, that's what gets expelled.
But it's less dangerous.
But it's less dangerous because it's not as deep in the lower part of your respiratory system, which is what gives you pneumonia and kills you ultimately.
Nice.
So yeah, I mean that's like what one study found. I don't know, I'm sure more research will be done and we'll maybe back that up.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, right now it looks like Omicron is not that crazy compared to the previous variants.
But it's more spreadable.
Yeah.
Which, to be honest, is something I remember hearing this dude. What the hell is his name? He was somebody who went on Joe's podcast a bunch. He's got the Wolfstein. He's got the brothers, the mathematician.
Eric Weinstein.
Yeah, and his brother is Brian, I think. Brian is a biologist.
Is it Brian?
I think it's Brian Weinstein.
Brett,
yeah, it's Brett. Yeah, so Brett was sitting there talking about, okay, the main fear about like not being able to take out COVID right away was that we might have something like the flu where it becomes really less deadly, but it's just going to keep, getting people sick in perpetuity afterwards. So that's kind of where I thought this was going to head, was probably what's going to happen is it become less deadly, but it's going to spread, and maybe like there's going to be like a COVID season where people just get like the flu, and
of course, like the flu does kill like thousands of people every year.
Yeah.
And like COVID will probably continue to do that. I mean, Omicron seems to be a lot more like the flu.
Yeah.
But again, like if you have, even if it kills 1/10 as many people, if 30 times more people get it,
Right, yeah,
then
yeah.
that's still 3 times the amount of deaths. So.
Right. But it's looking like, with the data that's shown, we're having higher cases, but still lower deaths.
Lower deaths, yeah.
Yeah.
That is definitely true.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I guess like the critical points to see the data will be like the next month.
In terms of the actual danger. But then there's the other interesting thing that we're talking about is the reinfection probability statistics.
Mm-hmm.
Because we were talking about, is it really necessary for somebody to, in order to get like the pass sanitaire? Like I know in France the rule is if you've had COVID, that counts as one vaccine. Right?
One dose?
Yeah, one dose of the vaccine. So you need to then, if you have the antibodies...
You can sit in here.
Okay. But like, is that... So, and the thing is, I remember like hearing stories of like, oh, this person had COVID and they were young and healthy and then months later they got reinfected, so like, be careful. But yesterday I remember trying to search for statistics on reinfection, and the first thing I did is I typed it into Google, and this was something also that we were talking about, where if you try to look up stuff about politics or even COVID, the rate of new information really saturates super fast. So I think that was the case here, because the first thing I did is I tried to search for like a genuine study or like a report with statistics about reinfection, and I looked stuff up on Google, and everything that pops up has been like the last 48 hours of like kind of articles of like Vox or BuzzFeed or like CNN or like all this stuff that's kind of like, maybe somebody looks at a scientific paper, or not even that, it's just like, okay, CNN reports on a story, and then they're just kind of like doing a comment on like what other journalistic sources have done, know? And it's like, we're kind of so far removed from like actual science. And so then I said to myself, fuck man, I'm a scientist. So I went to Google Scholar. So I went to Google Scholar, and I searched like COVID reinfection statistics. And granted, the search engine for finding general information that you might want on Google Scholar, I don't think is as robust as just the Google search engine, because scientific literature is like very specific. To find something that's kind of like broad scoping to answer like a general question is kind of a little bit harder to come by. But nonetheless, I typed in COVID reinfection, and I found one article, and it just started like, I don't know, I remember just being really, really disappointed. It was like a 2-page article, and there were no graphs. There are no tables. It just kind of said like, well, in this country we see this, in this country we see that. And then I'm sitting there, I'm like, man, this like paper's kind of trash. I remember looking at it, I was like, well, it came out like maybe 12 months ago at most, and because it said published in 2020. So like, 11, 12 months ago at most, if it was published in January in 2020. So then I said, and it was cited by 60 people. So I said, okay, 60 citations in a year for a scientific paper. Oh shit, you're right. Yeah, so I guess it was 2 years ago at most. Yeah. Maybe it was published in 2021. I don't know. Like, in any case, like, yeah, in the other case, like 60 citations for a scientific publication within 2 years, I know it's like kind of high. I was a little bit shocked in terms of, I thought like with COVID literature, there'd probably be a lot of COVID literature right now because it's the most important issue in the world. So I thought, my expectation going into it was, okay, there's going to be some key COVID papers that are kind of paving the ways for like other research labs, which probably would get published in like late 2019 or like anytime in 2020, and maybe at this point like it would have like hundreds of citations because it's laying the groundwork for what other labs have to perform. Mm-hmm. But then like, this one had like 60 citations. I was like, it's a little less than I expected, but also like a decent amount at the same time. And then like I look at it, and it's kind of trash and really like did not reach my expectations. And then I looked at the fucking author, and it's one author, which is weird because scientific papers and medical papers are really collaborative in nature. And then I looked at the affiliations, and the person is not affiliated with a university or like a medical research institute, and it was associated with some journalistic place like Vox, but it wasn't Vox. It's just like saying something of similar caliber, where it's like probably reputable and not like fucking Fox or like CNN or MSNBC. And then the person's email was a Gmail. I was like, what the fuck? Like, So I was like, God damn, like, it wasn't easy to find like reputable or like, it's kind of like honest statistics or like data about it, like, hey, like we have a sample size of 10,000 people, and like we did 2 random sample batches, And then out of this one who wasn't vaccinated, or who didn't have the infection, like 3 batches, you'd be like, this is a vaccinated category without having COVID previously. This is a vaccinated category, people with COVID previously. Unvaccinated people without COVID, and unvaccinated people who've had COVID. And like just say, what is the reinfection out of this group?
Right.
And I just wanted to see that. And I haven't seen it. And it's hard to find that.
If you were to go to one of those CNN articles, click on it, see which articles they're citing.
Yep.
Maybe that would lead you.
Dude, okay, you know Ethan? Like Ethan Wu, right? So this dude's kind of popping off on Instagram where like I think he's putting hot COVID takes in it, but like Ethan's a fucking smart guy, So he's doing like hot takes, and one he's particularly talking about is like reinfection. Like, you've had COVID before, like why are people's balls getting broken, about like you're not getting like the pass sanitaire. I don't know what the equivalent is in the States, but I know they're kind of enforcing it a little bit.
They have the vaccine card.
Yeah, the vaccine card. Okay.
And
so like
certain states enforce it more than others.
Yep. So like if you're young and healthy, and if you had the disease before, like why? And so he went to this article. It's like it might have been CNN or something of like equal shit kind of post something saying like, it was basically like a wrong information, and then they cited a scientific article. So then Ethan was just like, So he went to the article, and then what the article said is completely different than their interpretation. Yeah, like the article said that, it posted the statistics, and it said like, oh yeah, of people who've had, pretty much effectively saying out of like even at like the sample size and like what you'd want to see out of something reporting statistics, and it said the antibodies are more effective than the vaccine was like the proper, granted like it's a study of limited scope, but that is like the proper conclusion based on like what...
Based on the data.
Yeah, based on the data. And this is completely opposite of what the article was going with, Yeah, so I was like, that's fucking crazy.
It probably said like in the paper, like there was one sentence, it was like, however, like you can increase your...
Yeah, exactly, because
like, antibodies even more with the vaccine. Like,
yeah, something like that.
And then CNN probably took that and ran with it. You still need a vaccine. Like,
Yep. So like that's fucking wild.
And Fauci has like incorrectly answered that question as well. Like they'll kind of be like, wait a second, like these studies have shown that you have like 12 times more protection. I don't know the number. Like you have more protection if you get COVID rather than taking like a dose of the vaccine, or like even 2. Like why do you still have to get the vaccine if you've had it? And he was like, we need to make sure everyone gets the vaccine. And now, of course, like that's the incentive thing maybe that he's going with. I mean, he's a scientist, right? Like he's like one of the highest up scientists.
Number 1 public health expert in the United States.
Yeah, like you would think that he would be scientifically literate, and I'm sure that he is scientifically literate.
Yeah.
So like, why is he not either explaining like this is what I've seen in these studies, like whatever? Why is he just kind of like shutting down this evidence? He's like kind of just giving sound bites to like say like you still have to get vaccinated, and not really elaborating further. And I think there's the incentive of like, well, if getting COVID gives you better protection and we allow that, then everyone will just
be like, yo, let me get COVID. Yeah.
So like I understand that, but I think that there's a better way to go about it, which is just like be transparent and.
No, transparency is the number 1 option.
Say,
Which
like,
was
say like I think Kyle made this point at one point, like if you get COVID, like you could die. Like
but exactly right.
Yeah.
Like if your goal is to live in society normally, and if the pass sanitaire, the vaccine card is kind of enforced, and you're like, well, I want the pass sanitaire, but I don't want the vaccine. Like maybe I should just get COVID, but like. Know that you can die if you get COVID, or you'd be really sick for like a week, and like with the vaccine, you just have symptoms for a day, like you could still totally be honest about this and transparent, and still have the proper framing to put the incentive structure in the right way.
Yeah.
And this is similar to the number 1 issue with Fauci, which I think really discredited him to a lot of Americans and a lot of people, which is the mask lie. Where he said at the beginning of the pandemic, masks aren't effective to decentivize people from taking all the masks, especially the medical workers, get them in the first place. And like what you said was a great idea, which is what he could have said to do this framing is, hey, masks help stop the spread of COVID, but we don't have the proper number of masks yet for population-wide distribution. We need them for our medical workers first, so please wait on getting the masks, or can you please help us by having like a mask drive for our medical workers,
Yeah, you could even like put into place like policies of like you have to have a medical license card in order to buy more than 1 package of masks or something like this.
Yeah.
And, like there's so many ways that you could have still been transparent and
done the right thing.
Yeah. Like I think that people don't I think that a lot of times, like, public figures,
Yep.
especially in, like, the government, in this case Fauci, they almost, like, don't trust the people to make the right decisions
Yep.
when presented with good information.
Uh-huh.
But I think it backfires because
Then they don't trust them afterwards.
Exactly. People realize that, like, even if it was this small thing that in the grand scheme of things probably didn't, like, you know, impact the amount of people who died or whatever, that it's still, if you're lying to me about this, what else are you lying to me about?
Right.
And they just lost
Yeah, it's a
trust.
deterioration of
Fauci.
public trust. Yeah, that's really
Exactly.
bad. I also feel like what's at play with this dude Fauci is something that I've seen before, that I think has kind of happened with Rudy Giuliani, because you know Giuliani through like the Trump stuff, right, where he was like Trump's lawyer for like the Ukraine scandal.
But he used to be the mayor of New York.
He used to be the mayor of New York, and like I remember watching this documentary on Giuliani where he like really did a lot to take down like the mafia crime families, and like in his heyday he was like, wow, like this dude is kind of like a hero and really did the right thing. And I think it's the same thing for Fauci. Like Fauci back in the day, like what kind of brought him to fame or to be like considered to be the number one public health expert in infectious diseases was he kind of, I think it was the AIDS crisis. He really really ran campaigns against that and did a lot to like get it under control and make it better.
I've heard very mixed reviews about that. I haven't done any research, but I've heard from both sides, like this is how he like came to like fame, and like this is where he like made his name, whatever.
Yeah.
I've also heard that it got really botched and like a lot of people died, and especially like in
like the gay communities and stuff.
Poor communities, the gay community, and like in the black community, that a lot more people died than they should have. And
I see.
Because like there wasn't an equal distribution of resources, but I don't know.
I
like,
see.
I would have to do more research to be sure on that.
Yeah, interesting. Mm-hmm. I see. So yeah, that could be the case. But I feel as though it could be that like this person did a good work in their younger days, like in their heyday, got the taste of success, and now they're kind of running on a media high and are more addicted to that rather than the quality of their work, you know? And so maybe that could be the case with Fauci, where he's like, oh, like, you know, I ran HIV and I helped make the situation a lot better. Now they're coming to me to about COVID, and these people are kind of like eating every word of what I'm saying. And so like I just kind of like, I don't know, like maybe he fucking likes being in the spotlight as well, because I think people have criticized him for that too, where like this dude likes getting the camera attention, which was also a criticism of people saying about Rudy Giuliani, right? Like maybe he likes a little bit of the controversy, like he's not really looking to solve the issue as much, and maybe a little bit of his personal incentive to just kind of have the spotlight on him. I feel like that's a little bit of play with this guy. Kind of likes the controversy, which is not best. Solving the COVID honestly and transparently would be the best.
Right, that would be a good thing to do.
Yeah.
And then he says shit like, if you question Dr. Fauci, you question science.
Oh yeah, anybody who fucking refers to himself in the third person is a piece of shit.
Yeah.
Like, what are you doing? What? And he also calls himself doctor.
What is?
Well, I mean, like, anybody, do you think he's the kind of guy, if somebody addresses him as like Mr. Fauci, he might be like, call me doctor? He probably is. He's probably one of those.
I heard that he's the highest paid official in the U.S. government.
Really?
I don't know if that's true. I'm just totally taking some shit that I heard.
Yeah, I feel like that one, I can believe that not being true, actually. I feel like that could be like straight up like conspiracy theory stuff.
Yeah.
But I don't know. In any case, he's probably really well paid, and like he's probably living a good life right now. Or maybe he's working all the time and we've got a bad impression of him against like counter media campaigns. Hard to know. Yeah.
Well, it depends. I mean, he's also propped up by like the libs.
The libs.
The libs love Fauci.
The libs.
Like Sagar was saying, he'll like walk around
they do love him,
and just see like signs for Fauci everywhere.
Yeah, which is wild. Yeah, MSNBC and CNN really really love this guy. Yeah, really general appreciation is kind of nuts.
Oscar the Fauci.
Oscar the Fauci. It's mad funny. Oscar the Grouch,
Oscar
living in his fucking trash can, eating trash, and being grumpy and telling people what to do.
Yeah.
I feel like there's the last interesting issue about COVID that I've been thinking about since you were telling me about it, which is the unequal distribution worldwide, and how people in Europe and the States are talking about third dose, but then there's other countries that really don't have the dosage. And it kind of raises the question like, wow, is the vaccine effort pure in its effort to make people safe against COVID, or is it really profit driven?
And like I'm sure that it's both.
Yeah.
But it shouldn't be the first one at all. Or it shouldn't be the second
It shouldn't
one
be
at
trying to
all.
help people. We should make more money.
It shouldn't be the profit incentive at all.
Did you see the episode of SpongeBob when Mr. Krabs found out that climate change was good for business, and he started making SpongeBob burn more coal. It was amazing.
Like it was a recent one?
Yeah, I think so. I don't think I've seen the episode. I think I've just seen the clip, but I love that so much. He was like, faster, SpongeBob, and they're putting more coal in the furnace.
That's awesome, dude. The writers of SpongeBob are...
They're geniuses. They're amazing. Yeah. So, yeah, I don't know, because that's what you were talking about yesterday with, like, this vaccine is not really well distributed. And, like, if you think about, like, this is actually a piece of information I don't know how true it is, because my understanding is that having the vaccine it reduces the spread of COVID, but maybe not significantly, because the aim of the vaccine, I think, is to make you COVID resistant such that you don't end up in critical condition to burn the hospital resources and you don't die.
Exactly.
So maybe it reduces COVID a bit. I don't know by how much that is.
I think they've shown that it takes down the transmissibility of COVID and you getting COVID by a bit. Like there obviously are a good amount of breakthrough infections, which we're seeing now.
Right.
All these people are vaccinated and like
still getting the COVID.
But I think that the true goal, like what is the true goal at the end of the day, is to keep people out of the hospital and from dying.
Right.
And I mean, you know, that's the goal at the end of the day. And I think that there is a lot of like hype about the number of cases that there are, and we should be talking about hospitalizations have reached like an all-time high, not cases have reached an all-time high. Right. Because at the end of the day, it doesn't matter if thousands and thousands of people are sick for a day or two. It doesn't matter. Yeah. What was your point?
I kind of want to tie that into like I don't know, like I feel like there is like the authoritarian aspect that people talk about, which is we need to make sure these people are vaccinated and always wearing masks and checking their pass sanitaire, and then we're going to revoke their pass sanitaire unless they get the third dose of the vaccine or like the booster shot. And is that, like, why are we talking about everybody getting the third dose if it's the case that the vaccine is not distributed to people without the vaccine, like poorer countries? And that argument goes, well, if COVID is spreading rampant there, it's going to mutate and then become more of a threat. And so the vaccine should be more equally distributed to kind of like stop COVID and slow it down. And so, like this is what you were saying yesterday, like if we're talking about distributing the third dose to rich countries, we're doing it because they can pay for it, not because
that's the best thing for ending the pandemic.
Yeah, because it seems to me the best thing about ending like, what were you telling me about the thing in India? Like India or Moderna like refused to lift the patent because India was saying like, hey, if you just tell us how you make it, we can do it ourselves.
South Africa is currently trying to reverse engineer the vaccine. Like they've taken the Moderna vaccine, and because Moderna won't release the patent, they won't release the ingredients for the recipe or whatever. They're literally taking it and trying to remake it themselves. And South Africa has really advanced virology because of like the AIDS HIV
so they're pretty good
outbreak, and that's why they were able to detect Omicron, even though it didn't really start there.
I see.
But yeah, so they're like super advanced. I think they're the most vaccinated country in Africa, which is still only 35%.
Yeah, that's wild. It's really wild.
Africa is 6% vaccinated as a continent.
Damn, that's crazy.
Yeah.
There's also propaganda that the Africans feel, which this one makes me upset because it's so conspiratorial, and like I see people buying into it, where they say like Jeff Bezos, or not Jeff Bezos, like Bill Gates is racist with his vaccine drives. He's trying to make like Africans sterile to like perform a genocide. Because I've heard this before, that apparently like that argument is a bit more widespread like in Africa and like kind of believed. So there's like a lot of people there who would probably be pretty like against the vaccine because they see it as an actual attack against them.
So this is one thing that like Crystal and Sagar pointed out as well, is that it's like 6% in most countries in Africa, and then South Africa is the one where they have the most access to the vaccine because they have more money, they have better virology, whatever they have, so they have access, and it's at 35%. Yeah. So like even if every country in Africa got the 35%, say that it's around the same, like so that could mean that 60% of the people in the country are skeptical of the vaccine. Yeah. And I'm sure that it is lower there, because it's like, oh, the West is trying to push this stuff on us.
Yeah. Your friend Felipe with the cartoons. Yeah. I saw him do this thing, and I don't remember if it was like relevant to the vaccine or if it was relevant to other things about like European powers Americans, or even like now like China and like Eastern powers as well, like coming into Africa and saying like, here's a bunch of money, now pay me back, like kind of at gunpoint. Mm-hmm. And I think that context was actually in terms of the vaccine, like, here, we're gonna give you all these vaccines, now pay me, mm-hmm. you know? So it's kind of like, holy shit, it seems really intense.
Yeah, it's like, hey, I scratch your back, you scratch mine, but scratch mine like really
no,
hard.
yeah.
Like, give me your resources. But on the vaccines, skepticism.
Yeah.
They like say that South Africa has. It's obviously not the same in every African country, mm-hmm. but these countries are at 6% because they don't have access to the vaccine. Mm-hmm. But if they were to get access, even if all the countries got up to 35%, that would save millions of lives.
Yeah, it's true. That'd still be pretty significant.
Yeah, so like even if not everyone would be down to get the vaccine, like it would still save a ton of lives.
Yeah.
And it would stop a lot of the propagation of the virus. And yeah, I mean like Crystal did a really good job like kind of laying this out. Just like if you were a pharma company and all you cared about was mm-hmm. profit, like in theory, like not saying this is actually what's going on explicitly, but if you were a pharma company and all you wanted was to just make as much money as possible, you would make a vaccine that works, which mm-hmm. it does. It works very well. It's very effective at stopping hospitalization and death. You would sell it to the people that can afford it. Not give it to the people who can't afford it, so that the virus can continue to spread and mutate, so that there will continuously be need for more doses. You will have to like change the vaccine a little bit when the variants come out, and then you can resell it and just keep selling it to the rich countries. And that's, I mean, with Omicron, that's literally to a T exactly what happened. And now everyone's saying we need a third dose. In Israel, they're starting to push a fourth dose. I mean,
that's crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's really crazy.
Yeah. Yeah. How do you feel, like, I guess you were saying this yesterday too, which is like, and I feel like your perspective was new to me, but I feel like that's actually exactly how I feel as well. Like, I would get a third dose, you know, like at this point, like, I remember when I got the second dose and the first dose of the vaccine, I felt physical relief. And I didn't expect that because I thought I had like a pretty stoic standpoint before where it's like, there's a world crisis, there is a disease running rampant, I might get it, it might be bad, I don't think I'm going to die in any case, but I could be pretty sick, and then I just need to adapt my life to the current conditions. It's honestly not too bad. I was having a pretty positive attitude about it, like, you know, everybody's locked in their apartments, I'm on Zoom, I'm working with other people, I'm still getting my work done. The French government made, gave like course meals, which was like, you know, little meals with like a piece of meat, some vegetables, and like a carb for like €1, so it was pretty affordable. So I was like, okay, economically I'm gonna get through this. Like socially, I'm making it work as best as possible. I'm still finding a way to get my work done. And honestly, I was able to really look at the bright sides, like, okay, like I don't need to commute to the observatory every day, which is really fucking nice, and I saved a lot of time. And I even said, and I still think this is true, like I performed better academically just because of the transportation time was cut out. And like, oh my God, they do these horrible 3-hour lectures, and I would sit in my room, the professors would lecture, I would just fucking put my computer on mute and then read the lecture notes, and it was way more productive, it was way better, so I really think I was able to perform better academically thanks to the pandemic, you know? So I really think like I actively, you know, with active effort, I made the most out of the situation that I could. And so it was a really huge surprise to me when I got the vaccine and I felt physical relief, because that means I was stressed about it without even realizing it. You know?
No, that makes sense.
You know, so, and after I had this euphoric relief, it really changed my perspective, because I was like, wow, like we're getting through a crisis and like progress. I really felt progress.
Yeah. I mean, the vaccine is one of the best things that humanity has done in.
Yeah, this is something too.
Crazy.
It's and like in every sense, like virus comes out, infects the entire world. We find out a way to stop it, and then the distribution effort is also like incredibly impressive. You know, yeah, like I was really able to feel like really positive about it. But the thing is, since then, since I've had that breakthrough, I really haven't been able to feel like nervous about it at all as I was before. And so for me, getting the third vaccine doesn't seem necessary. I feel as though I've already got good enough resistance to the disease in the first place. And like, I'm not worried about the consequences of getting the vaccine. Like, I don't think this thing's gonna make me fucking sterile. I'm not worried about like long-term health benefits I mean, like, obviously I don't, like, for example, like, I got like a fucking bum knee now because like I tore a ligament that's gonna affect me for the rest of my life. I don't want that. I certainly wouldn't want like, oh, you know, like in 5 years time, like you might have like a little bit of asthma because of the disease or like the vaccine or some shit, right? Like, I wouldn't want that either, but I don't see that as like a really high probability. I don't see that as non-zero.
But it's a new type of vaccine. I mean, you just never know.
You do never know. So, like, I'm not trying to shit on people too much who are skeptical of the vaccine because of long-term, potential long-term, not benefits, but fucking...
like effects. Just
long-term negative effects. Because, you know, like, I've done more dangerous self to myself than getting the vaccine. So I think it would be non-logically consistent for me to say, like, okay, I'm not going to get the vaccine. And plus, I buy the other argument of this as well, which is the, like, COVID without the vaccine is known to already have potential long-term effects on people, you know? Like, Elise the other day was saying, like, okay, I had COVID, and she said she had a really bad case, right? Because she said she had asthma for a little bit when she was younger, like, it kind of came and went away, but nonetheless, like, maybe the lungs are still permanently affected from that. I don't know exactly how the asthma thing works, but, you know, she was super sick for, like, 5 days, and then she said she was breathing weird for months afterwards.
Yeah, Tolu had the same thing. Tolu, like, truly struggled to breathe for a good amount of time.
That's wild. So, like, you know that's the case, and the other one is kind of like I guess a little bit more of a wild card. But at the same time, not really, because people get COVID, and then they have these, we'll call them midterm negative effects, like after their sickness ends. And the vaccines have already been distributed and injected in people for timescales longer than that.
So there's no
negative effects. Yeah, there's no midterm effects, right?
So, I mean, there could, of course, be, like, maybe you
after 5 years,
go a
something's
third
gonna pop
arm
up.
in, like, 7 years. But, like, that would be kind of cool.
That would be pretty badass, though. If it gives me a tail, that would be super sick, because I've always wanted a tail, you know? Yeah. So, like, I don't know. Like, I'm going to get the third dose, because I'm not worried about it. But I swear to God, like, my main mindset about this point is, like, I'm going to get the third dose out of a want to be professional. You know, like, I don't want to be the guy, like, going to the office without, like, the pass sanitaire, who, like, can't go to a public event because, like, I don't have this anymore. And, like, all the incentives are not for fear of the vaccine.
They're not what?
It's not for fear of the vaccine nor COVID. You know, like, I'm not afraid of the vaccine. I'm not really afraid of COVID. I'm literally going to get the third dose for the pass sanitaire.
So you become a sheep.
Yeah, effectively. I mean, like, in a sense, it's like, I just want the easiest path forward for me to, like, live my life appropriately. But at the same time, like, you know, before with people, like, protesting against the vaccine, like, the first wave and saying, like, I'm never getting the vaccine, I feel as though, like, I appreciate the people who are saying, like, I don't like the government imposing things on me. I don't agree with that argument because, you know, for example...
At some point you have to.
At some point you have to. We could get drafted if there's a war, you know? And, like, I would lose my personal rights for the collective good. And you have to buy into that at some point. And I do see it as kind of selfish to say, oh, I'm not going to take this risk on the vaccine because, like, I don't want this to negatively affect me, or I don't want the government to impose something on me.
At the end of the day, you taking the vaccine could save millions of lives.
Yeah.
And obviously not you personally, but
slows down the spread.
On a big scale, like people saying, I'm going to take the vaccine, that saves millions of lives.
Yeah, and we agree, like, if we all get the vaccine, we can open up more, like, you know, for the social aspects too, like, can you just, like, kind of participate and, like, think about something other than yourself?
Yeah.
So, like, I appreciate the people who are, like, really into freedom. I think the conspiratorial people are fucking nuts. Saying, like, plandemic, you know? Granted, a second ago we were talking about profit incentives, which I do see as viable. I think it's pretty evil, but I see as viable, but I don't think that's as much as saying, like, came out of the Wuhan lab. I don't know, but, like, came out of the Wuhan lab, we've already started developing the vaccine previously, so we're gonna infect the world and then sell it, make a bunch of profit, and, like, all the presidents are working with Jeffrey Epstein and like rape it. You know, like, all that stuff where everything's tied together. Like, those people are, like, a little bit out of the rocker. Like,
it assumes that these people who are running the world are more competent than they really are.
Yeah, exactly.
And they're not.
Yeah.
That's the bottom line.
Yep, precisely.
Nancy Pelosi is not with it.
No, Nancy Pelosi's not with it. Like, Joe Biden's not with it.
Yeah, Nancy Pelosi is not going to cut your kids' genitals off. As
they're not going to sterilize us. Like, that's
Alex
fucking
Jones
nuts.
suggested.
This dude Alex Jones is wild.
Yeah. What do you think about the Wuhan lab?
Could it be a lab leak? I don't see it as, like, impossible.
I'm more on that wave than I am on the market leak. There's the dude who's like one of the main proponents of the lab leak theory went on Lex Friedman's podcast, and he's like he's an author, but he's I don't know if it's virology or genomics. I think he's a genomics expert, and so he went on Lex's podcast, and they did a 5-hour long conversation, and
about like the genetic sequencing and like I think I've
no,
heard
not just about that, like just
well, everything about it.
Yeah, everything about it, but like a little bit about that, yeah.
Because I've heard the argument before that like with the sequencing, like I don't know how this works at all, but apparently there's evidence to suggest like there's been human modifications.
That I heard too, and I remember like Fauci was emailing about that in like January or February of 2020. Like, you know, Sagar brings that up a lot. He hates Anthony Fauci, and I love it.
Yeah, I love how much Sagar hates Anthony Fauci.
Like, I think Anthony Fauci is like, I think he has a big ego. I think he's not effective at communicating public health.
He lied.
He lied.
Effectively, he lied to me, you know, so I'll never trust him.
I'll never trust him. But I mean, I don't wish death upon him. Like,
yeah, like I also know, like, damn, like I also think he does feel this, like, he's got the ego about it, and I think he likes the spotlight too much, but I also know at the same time he does feel like I'm the captain of the ship and does want to do a bit of a responsible thing to, like, end the pandemic. For example, him lying about the masks to save it for the healthcare workers, I disagree with that argument. I think it deteriorates public trust, but the motive was we want to save the people who are on the front lines.
Right.
So, like, you could see, like, the heart was in the right place, even though I think the decision was really bad. You know?
Exactly, yeah. No, I agree with that. I don't like Anthony Fauci.
No, I don't like Anthony Fauci. Yeah.
And actually, like, the more that I think about it, like, should he be in that position? Like,
I think it would be totally reasonable to fire him after, like, that mask lie. The mask lie.
Yeah. And now he's saying things like you'll have to wear a mask on an airplane for the rest of your life. Like, Harvard did a study before the vaccine even came out. This showed there's basically zero transmission on planes. Like, you would have to sit next to somebody.
Doesn't the cabin recycle air so fast?
Yeah, you would have to sit next to somebody on a plane for 54 hours in order to have like a significant probability of transmitting the disease.
Nice. Dude, what if we're like sharing saliva? Dude, what if it's Paul and Alessia?
That's true. Paul and Alicia would definitely.
They'd probably get it right away.
They'd probably. Yeah, but essentially, I think like the bottom line is like we'll never know if it came from a lab or from a market.
Yeah, especially because like you just cannot trust China at all, you know.
But there's like just so many sketchy things. Like there was a database of 20,000 like infectious diseases that just went offline in September 2020, and like now from the Wuhan like Institute of Virology, and then there was also like miners that got infected by bats in a mine in southern China in like 2012. And then they took samples from that. So, like, we know, and that's the closest related disease that we know about to COVID. So, like, we know that they had these kinds of diseases.
So, it could have came from a bat, and, like, they kind of fucked with it to study it, and then...
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then, like, apparently they also had terrible, like, safety regulations there. Like, they weren't, like, making sure that, like, with the clean rooms and stuff, that everything was, like, okay.
Right.
And then I think what kind of, like, made me think about it more was, like, the theory of the fact that it came from a market kind of includes that a bat would have had to fly from Laos to China, and then they would have, or either that, or it infected, like, because they say it went through like a pangolin or whatever that animal is. There was like an intermediate animal. So they say that either a bat would have had to fly to China and then end up at that market and then have like infected someone there, or it would have had to have infected a pangolin where it lives in its habitat in Laos or southern China.
And then that would have had to be brought to China.
And then that would have had to been brought to the market in China, but like it would have had to have only affected one pangolin or one batch, and then that one would have had to have been brought to specifically that market, and like none of the other ones in the batch got infected or were brought anywhere else.
Right.
And it's just like it's like if you start to think about like wait,
seems like a miracle.
Yeah, it seems like a miracle. And now granted, like that's of course that guy's
take
theory.
on it. Yeah.
But Lex also had the head, like Fauci's boss, essentially.
Lex got a boss?
Yeah.
Wow.
The head of the National Health. The National Institute of Health, NIH, who's Fauci's like boss, and he had him on the show, and like the guy was just like responding to all of Lex's questions with the standard like public health corporate answers, like we at this time have no indication that it came from a lab, and then we have no I don't know, like Dr. Fauci is like doing a great job, like I don't think he should be fired, like these kinds of stuff. I mean, he gave you exactly the answers that you would expect, but I mean, there's no evidence specifically that it came from a lab, but I find it harder to believe that it didn't.
Yeah. Huh, this is interesting. So I have this idea about like the vaccine, and this is kind of one thing that I would want to tell. I mean, like, for example, like I know some like anti-vax people who are like pretty fucking healthy, you know, and like I really buy those arguments of like worry about your health first. Like that's far more important in terms of like preventing like hospitalization, for example, which is kind of the scope of the vaccine anyway. So like why don't you just be healthy? So like for me, like, get the vaccine, you know, like, these people who are, like, super healthy in that camp anyway, like, dude, you're the kind of guy who goes skydiving, you know, like, the vaccine's not as much risk as, like, doing some, like, extreme shit that you do. Granted,
also,
a certain image, but...
I mean, I agree that, like, on a personal level, like, that makes sense. I think the argument for those people to get the vaccine is just to protect other people. Yeah. And I've thought about this in terms of, the arguments with the people, you know, I thought about this in terms of like, you know, like remember with like Marisa and like the people in like Utica were like, let's take down like the Christopher Columbus statue, like really anti like colonialism, and like these people committed massive genocides, were really horrible to like when the Americas got discovered, and like that's really true. You know, like I remember watching this video on one of my favorite YouTube channels, this called Voices of the Past. This dude just reads primary source documents. You know, like he read a document about the people who were with what the hell is the conquistador's name? Cortez.
Cortez, yeah. He read documents of people associated with Cortez, people from like the Aztec side. I've seen him read documents of people who are on like the Mayflower. And one of them, I don't remember who it was, but somebody who was like discovering like one of the islands in the Atlantic, and like they meet contact with the people, and what they're saying is like, oh, these people are fucking dumb, or like they just need a little bit of Christianity and they'll shape right up. Dan Carlin said that once, and I thought that was a really funny take about like white saviorism. Or they're saying like they'll make great slaves and like subjects to our king, like slaves and subject, you know, like we'll give them some autonomy and stuff. But like that was the mindset they were going into it. They weren't going, which is, you know, dominant, superiority, disrespect their way of life. They need to be more like us. But it wasn't massive genocide, you know, which is like really fucking evil. And I think it's kind of bad to say like, you know, these people did want to do that, because like that's really, really bad. And like, you know, these people were Christians, they're like Catholic people, like, you know, they brought some like wisdom about Jesus Christ, even though they used it in aggressive edge, and like, you're going to be royal subjects to us, and like blah, 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 blah. You're going to give us your gold and your resources, and we're going to exploit you, which is all very true, and I buy into it. What killed these people was disease, you know, like what killed these people is all of the diseases that Europeans brought back with them. And so in that case, it really makes me think like, you know, in society today, thanks to modern science, we've unlocked a vaccine, which is effectively like unlocking power from the gods, where we can stop civilization ending phenomena, you know? And like, that should be really respected, and I think that should be like take the fucking vaccine. You don't know how lucky we are that we have this, because like, what do they estimate? Like 100 million people in the Americas died due to like contact with the West. Yeah. Like that's fucking crazy. That's literally fucking crazy. So I think the vaccine should be taken more seriously because of that. But then this also ties into the fact where I still see it viable that it came from a wet market, because the question has been asked, why is it that the Europeans brought diseases to the Americas and we didn't get a back disease? Granted, there are some back diseases, for example, syphilis, they think came from the Americas and got brought backwards to Europe, but nothing like, you know, the shit that like ends civilization. So why did the Americans get the civilization-ending diseases? And the idea is that Europeans, in like all of history, and especially in like feudal society, like you fucking live with the animals. You know, like there's horses everywhere, there's cows everywhere, and like pigs everywhere. And so the diseases that really fuck up like humans or different species are the ones that cross species, you know? Because for a disease standpoint, you want to be able to live in your host and reproduce, because if you kill your host, you're going to die. Which is why variants like Omicron are starting to dominate. Yeah, exactly, because they're not killing the host as much, right? So they're able to live longer and reproduce and like transfer from host to host. So, like, you know, if I've got a disease that's specialized for a horse, and then all of a sudden it mutates and it can affect a human, it's going to fucking wipe out the human. And so that's why we've had so many diseases that we brought over to the Americas that were able to kill them, that all the Europeans developed resistance to. And so for me, that kind of like gives viability to like the wet market, because, you know, I've seen the video of like the wet markets where it's like, wow, you've literally got like 20 different species all hanging up from a fucking hooks right next to each other, you know? It's like kind of a gross and like non-disease safe environment, and like they're dead and there for a couple days, and they don't have like refrigerators or like ice and shit. And so I could see that still being from a scientific standpoint, like totally viable. Like I don't know what actually happened, and I can see like, you know, the Wuhan lab being like viable as well. The thing is, like, we don't know because like you cannot fucking trust the Chinese government.
They did it like a study, like the WHO approved like a study that got like sent through the Wuhan lab to like check it out. They weren't allowed like no freedom inside the lab. So like, obviously the study came back like we didn't find anything, but like
because they couldn't look. We didn't find anything because we just went to the door and that was it.
But yeah, no, that's definitely true. I think what they've looked at more is like what species did this thing come from, and I think that answer is
they're not able to identify that as easily as they should be, right?
Well, they're not sure what the intermediate host is. I don't know why there has to be an intermediate host. I don't know
from
why.
A bat.
Yeah, like I'm not sure why bats can't just infect humans. It seems to be the generally accepted theory with the
that it has to have an intermediate species.
Yeah, I don't know.
It's weird.
I mean, they think that there was an intermediate species in any case, but either way, the bats that had these coronaviruses were found in southern China, far away. Like it would be like from Montana to Texas,
right?
And in like Laos and Cambodia and like Southeast Asia, and they know that they like found an outbreak of one of these things in that mine in southern China.
Yeah.
So I think it's not necessarily like clearly there was an outbreak at the wet market. Like there's no doubt that this is where the disease was first identified, and this is where the disease really spread. Like really spread. But yeah, I mean we don't know.
Yeah. We don't know. Yep. And like with because I also think like I think there's a big difference between like Western societies and like the Chinese society, because for example like not even just China, like also in like Thailand and like North Korea, like they really have more of a respect for image, and I could see it being the case that like you know, even if the Chinese government didn't do anything wrong and like it really came from the wet lab, I could still see them trying to like block information for them to like go into the lab anyway, because they're more private, you know, or like what am I trying to say?
Do you think that there's more of that? Like, do you think that the U.S. government doesn't want the image? Like, I
think like compare like the presidential debates where like these people just like insulting each other and looking like clowns to the way like China organizes itself and its image, right? Yeah. Like they're trying to block information that could be bad for the reputation of China abroad, which I don't think they're aware of how bad that affects them, you know, because that literally goes against every European and like American value, which is like a open dialogue, you know, this idea of like freedom of speech, open dialogue, talk about things are in the open. And so, yeah, I could literally see them saying like, well, if we let these people in and they get the wrong idea, maybe they're still going to blame it on us, you know? So like, we're just going to not even entertain this idea. I could see that also being valid for them. And yeah, what's wild to me is like how much influence they have over like how well able they are to like pull our strings. You know, I feel like they're really able to manipulate us. For example, like the John Cena thing.
Oh, the John Cena thing is crazy.
It's
because they have the biggest population in the world.
Yeah.
So if you want to do business there,
and they know we love business. Like America's a fucking business.
Then you have to just shut your mouth. Like Elon is on this level now too.
Yeah. Same thing with Google. Google's like, yeah, we'll let the Chinese government filter our search engine if we can still like access your population and do business in your country. So yeah, like. Yeah, they're really big into monitoring and like they're really big into like supporting our image and like unity. You know, so I don't know. Like definitely like if it did come out of the lab because they were irresponsible. Yeah, like I guess for them like you'd have to make a decision like, okay, I know that if I don't let the WHO into our labs to do the study, they're going to be like, wow, like these people are fucking blocking us. But China's already got that reputation, so it's not like it's a surprise, you know? So, but if it does come out of the lab, and to be honest, like Xi Jinping probably doesn't fucking know himself. Like he's not an infectious disease expert. He's probably just thinking about Chinese image. So like if it is the case that it did come out of the lab, and they go in there and they find that, that's going to be a really bad image for China. But if we block them and not do it, they're going to be like, wow, like we can't trust the Chinese because like they block information, like they censor and blah, 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 blah. But everybody already knows that,
Yeah.
you know? So, like, maybe it's not that big of a deal if we just censor it because it's nothing out of the ordinary.
Yeah, I guess that makes sense.
Yeah.
From an image standpoint.
Yeah.
Yeah, dude, it's crazy. We live in a wild world.
Yeah, we live in a wild time. Yeah, I don't really answer these questions. We should learn Chinese and then, like, go there and find out.
I'm done.
Yeah.
So, we've talked a lot about what's going on in COVID, what could have started COVID,
Yep.
where it's...
How we feel about it in our particular situation on the ground.
Yeah, what do you think is next? Like, where do you think we're going to be in... Because if you had told me in April 2020 that, like, this would still be the case, that I would be, like, super nervous about, like, did I get COVID on Christmas 2021? I would have been kind of shocked. Like, I remember at the beginning of the pandemic, I remember watching a video of Bill Gates, and I remember my dad as well, like, both saying, like, and, like, this was just, like, kind of the consensus from, like, the elite, is, like, this will be, like, a 2-month issue. Like, obviously, at first, it was 2 weeks to flatten the curve, and it'll go away. Then we saw, like, some lockdowns starting to open up. But I remember in that first lockdown, they were like, this could be a thing until June, but, like, hopefully it'll be open by 4th of July. And then...
Yeah,
we're still dealing with this years later. So, I mean, and now, of course, like, with Omicron, like, we're starting to see that the more spreadable, less deadly variants are starting to win out. I mean, we obviously have a lot of drama with the pharma companies, with the vaccine. Where are we going to be in 1 year? Where are we going to be in 10 years? Like, on this issue.
Yeah, so that's actually really interesting because I do remember kind of buying into the... I don't know, I remember being a little bit skeptical on that. That, like, oh, it's going to be over by the time the summer comes.
I think...
But it was a bit, to be honest. Like, we were in a COVID low, and, like, it was a really good summer that summer. You know, I remember going to the park, and, like, it was so amazing because it was the first time I was social again. I remember me and Rose went for a walk, and I saw this dude, Colton, and we were just walking, and this dude opened up his... It was also... Because, you know, in the Northeast, when it's spring for the first time and the snow melts, everyone's insane.
Yeah.
Everyone's a little fucking crazy.
Yeah.
You know, it's amazing. Like, I remember being a child in class, nobody can fucking sit still. Like, you can wear a tank top again. Like, girls are wearing sundresses. Everybody's fucking ecstatic. Sundress season is crazy. And, like, we're going for a walk. I see this dude Colton. He opens up his window, and it is the most awkward conversation I've ever had. You know, it's like... Oh, yeah. And I'm like, oh, hey. He's like, oh, yeah. And we're speaking at the same time. We're interrupting each other. Like, I was like, holy shit. Like, I've only interacted with Rose in person. Everybody else has been on telephone or, like, Zoom or FaceTime for, like, the past fucking, like, 7 weeks or 8 weeks. And then, but the thing was, typically, I feel as though when I've had those awkward conversations, it's awkward and you feel bad. Like, holy shit, like, what's going wrong? Are you going to fix this?
Oh my god, I was to talk to someone.
Yeah, I was like, oh my god, like, fuck, like another person, like, holy fuck, shit. You know, I feel like we both felt that. Like, I was so ecstatic to see this dude. I was like, bro, like, you going back to Canada soon? Because he was a Canadian international student. He was just like, yeah, dude, finishing up. And, like, and then, like, I'm interrupting him, and then he's interrupting me. Like, no flow, really bad conversation, but it was, like, amazing.
Wow.
It was so amazing. You know, that was amazing. It was an amazing feeling. And then Almir and Jenna came to Ithaca. And, like, I saw them post a story, and I was just like, bro, you're in Ithaca and you didn't let me know? But I feel like at the time it's probably like, oh, like, I don't know if I should let them know that I'm here, because maybe they're not comfortable seeing me.
Right.
You know, like, I don't know. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's kind of hard to talk about those things.
Yeah,
like,
getting back to being social again was weird.
It was really weird.
There was a time where, like, obviously, I would say by, like, the midpoint of that summer, like, we were all just hanging out, like, nobody...
Dude, we were fucking drinking, sharing drinks in the backyard, playing
like
beer
4th of
die,
July,
like,
that was
McJulian's.
super fun, yeah.
That was bomb.
But there was definitely a transition period into that.
Yeah, I remember the most significant transition period, like, happened literally in the afternoon, because Almir posted pictures of his in Ithaca, and he's, like, seeing the waterfalls. I see the picture, and I'm like, bro, like, you gotta tell me if you're coming to town. Like, you know I live here. So he's like, yeah, dude, like, sorry, like, yeah, let's go get some ice cream. So we got ice cream. This dude gets a milkshake. Can't finish his milkshake. And we're, like, for the first 20 minutes, we got our masks on and stuff, and then eventually, like, somebody, like, takes their mask off because, like, we're eating the ice cream, and... Then, like, I'm giving him a hug. And then, like, this dude's like, well, I can't really finish my milkshake. And I'm like, faux pas gâché, like, you can't waste. So, bless you. So I literally eat this dude's milkshake. And then, like, then I was like, oh, we like...
And then everyone just started making out.
Yeah, then everyone was like... No, we had, like, a barbecue, and then a couple weeks later, Trey comes up, and, like, we do more things in Ithaca, and then I go back to Utica for the first time since the pandemic started.
I remember you came to my house, and my mom was a bit nervous at first.
Yeah, I remember your sister was, like, super upset at, like, all of us. Yeah, because she said you guys are the ones who are, like, because we were careless, which is true. And yeah, I feel like there's a general college student perspective at the time too, because like your end of college experience got fucking ruined by COVID, but it's like hers just started, so it's like you guys are gonna ruin my college experience because you're like spreading COVID and shit.
Yeah.
Which is a rational standpoint, but it's like holy shit. It's like I think COVID really opened my eyes to like there are really other valid perspectives. I don't have it. So it's hard for me to level with someone and still respect their point of view. You know, like it showed me how difficult that can be because like I respect what you're saying and you are right, but like on a personal level, I don't like I believe what you're saying and consciously I buy into it, but subconsciously like I'm trying to shotgun the spear with stone, you know, and like my worry isn't high enough for it to stop me, and I can't fake
at
it.
Stone's birthday party?
Yeah.
At his house, yeah. That was the first event I went to.
Yeah.
There was like 30 people there.
Oh, it was
I remember
amazing.
after my sister was really upset. And I started thinking about it. I was like, damn, like, I had a great time. Like, that was the best. Like, that was super fun. But then I was thinking about it, like, was that the right thing to do? Like, I don't know.
Yeah,
like,
you definitely get some doubt.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, like, we did it the rest of the summer.
Yeah.
But,
I remember I was checking the statistics a lot, and it was low, you know? Yeah, it was, like, kind of nothing, you know? So it was... I did feel validated. I was just like, come on, there's just like fucking one case and 40,000 people here reported. So like, if there's a couple unknown cases, it's like 10 and 40,000. Like, come on, you know? So I was feeling justified in our ways. And granted, none of us got COVID that summer. And it was COVID though, like nobody really had it. But yeah, I definitely was nervous. You know? Like,
yeah, those were crazy times.
It was amazing. It literally made the summer amazing.
Yeah, that was an amazing summer for sure.
This is one of the aspects where it was kind of like, I can appreciate COVID, you know?
For
I mean, it did kind of change like a revolution in the world, you know, like online working and like, it's kind of one of those periods like, hey, you miss out on your friends for a long time too, and you see each other again. It's like, wow, I'm so excited to do like absolute bullshit and nothing important at all, just with other people, you know, like I appreciate that I was able to give.
Yeah, COVID definitely changed a lot. I mean, it's made a lot of people's lives better, but it's also like, you know, there's been like a super huge like wealth transfer like during the process, like the rich got like way richer, like it's, and obviously that means that the poor are getting poorer. It's a zero-sum game, so like. Yeah, so I don't know. It's like it's an interesting time.
Yeah.
It's definitely the most dynamic time, like the most dynamic event that's happened probably since World War II. So like. Yeah,
it affects like every decision effectively that I have to make or think about. You know, it's starting to become less so. You know, like for example. Well, like with the PhD possibilities, like if I were to do it, because I got, you know, like there's two possible ones where like I could work with like this professor who's like collaborating with the Japanese, and she's like, you know, you'd be able to go to Japan a bunch. Granted, if the observatory accepts me and I get the thesis, but like that would be super fucking cool. And like a little bit, I'm thinking like, so if it was like, yeah, what are my predictions for like the next couple of years and how this is gonna play out? So me and Antoine, well, this is Antoine's friend, but we got this friend named Alexi, right? And he graduated, and I think he did physics or materials, or like something in terms of like solid state physics, and he's working for a company, and he's supposed to go to Japan. And he was supposed to go to Japan a year ago. And it's kind of this thing where it's like, you're going to go to Japan someday. Like it's turned into that, where it's forever and perpetually like pushed back.
Yeah.
And now it's not even really like a fixed point anymore. They're just kind of saying like, you will go.
Like as long as you stay with us, like.
Yeah.
It's on your palate. Like
but I also think there might be like a time limit. Like if it waits too long, like it's kind of gonna miss the opportunity, or maybe he's not with a company for like maybe it's like a contract of durée déterminée, CDD. I don't know if you know that, but it's like a fixed term contract.
Right.
I don't know what it is, but effectively like for him, it's like damn, like the Japanese are way more strict about COVID and like in terms of like immigration and people going in and stuff. So like I might not be able to go, you know, because like I think for him it's like I'm either gonna go within the next year or not gonna go at all. But when I'm sitting there thinking like, okay, if like I work for this professor with Antonella, and if I were not going to do the PhD, this is going to take me to from what like 21, like 2020 spring, like fall of 2022 to like spring of 2026. So like 3 years.
Yeah. 2025.
It's 2025.
Because the first.
Yeah, 2025. So I think I would. For me, I haven't thought about this critically, but I personally, in my gut feeling, think that it would be a safe bet to say like I will go to Japan. Mm-hmm. You know, like I don't think that the COVID situation would be so serious in a couple of years that it would prevent me from going to perform a scientific collaboration with like the Japanese Space Agency. You know, Yeah, I suppose that's how I feel about it. Yeah, we should think about like making more concrete predictions. Like, what the fuck is this going to be like in a couple months? I think that people are getting more comfortable speaking out against the way the precautions are handled in terms of pandemic. Like for example, like I will get the third vaccine, but like I don't care, you know. So if people were like, if there were like
I was excited to get the first.
I was just
like really excited.
I was like, holy shit! Like I'm gonna get my life back and I'm gonna be safe.
Yeah.
You know. So I was excited for the first one, and like also getting the vaccine. Like for us in our case, because right before we got the first vaccine, and the second dose, we got our pass sanitaire, and then we were able to do our bike trip in Italy. So for me, like getting the vaccine was like a huge transition of like lockdown to like instant freedom and like doing something really cool and like traveling. So I was super, super excited about getting the first dose. And like for the third dose for me, like what the fuck is this changing? You know, like what is this changing? Like I don't think it's making me more safe. Like as we were saying earlier, I also think it's a waste. Like these vaccine doses should be given to countries who need them. So I also see it as like a bit selfish. And then my only motivation to get it is, for example, like professional and to not miss out on the pass sanitaire. So that in turn makes me think that if there were massive protests coming out against it, because you know people fucking protest in France, like I'd probably go. Plus I want to see a protest anyway. You know, it's like I wouldn't do it. And so I feel as though there might be more movements of people really against COVID measures soon, because to be honest, I was talking about this with Federico, is it was advertised that, hey, you guys get the vaccine, you will get your freedom back, you know? And we've gotten to this point, like what, like 75%, 80% of the population is vaccinated. We've pretty much capped out on like how many people are gonna get vaccinated without really fucking enforcing it and doing forceful injections. And so like, fuck man, like at some point, like when's the freedom coming back? Like if the variants continue getting weaker and like hospital resources aren't being spent as much, deaths aren't really happening, but the government still tries to like impose more regulations, like I would be fed up, you know? But at the same time, I do think the government does pretty, I do buy into the idea of like government for the people, by the people, of the people. So I do think like the government officials would also be pretty fucking fed up as well and like buy into that and say like, okay, like, fuck man, like
at
where...
some point it's also like if all you care about incentives wise as a politician is getting elected, that's not popular. Like,
yeah, eventually, I think eventually it's become an unpopular position to be like strong COVID reinforcements.
And I think that's why Biden is like against lockdowns. I mean, he's obviously like pro other measures,
right?
But he's never ever advocated for like starting lockdowns.
Right.
T'as fait un test, Ben?
Non, je vais faire demain.
Okay.
Ouais.
Ça va?
Oh.
How do you feel? How do you feel having COVID? Maybe.
Tu te sens asymptomatique?
Non.
T'as les symptômes?
Bah, je suis malade, je sais que je suis malade.
Mais pas trop.
Non.
Par exemple,
Mais
est-ce que tu penses que tu peux courir maintenant?
Non.
Oh.
Enfin, si, je pourrais, mais j'ai pas envie.
Donc tu ne veux pas y aller?
Non.
Nice.
On va cuisiner bientôt.
I'm not hungry. Allez, on va attendre.
Ah, est-ce que tu peux goûter?
Ouais.
Allez.
Ah ouais?
Et sentir?
Bah, j'ai le rhume.
Ah.
Ok. Mais ok, ça c'est intéressant parce que normalement les personnes qui perdent ça. Et j'ai oublié ça.
Pas toujours.
Pas toujours.
Moi,
c'est
moi
vrai.
je goûte très bien.
Moi je goûte très bien.
Ouais.
Ah oui, ça c'est. Par exemple, peut-être qu'on n'a pas le Covid parce qu'on peut goûter.
C'est possible, ouais.
Ouais, c'est possible. Moi en vrai, je trouve pas.
C'est vrai que oui.
Si j'ai pas le Covid, je suis quand même malade.
Comment?
Même s'il a pas
Mais
le
mec,
Covid,
je suis
il est
malade de ouf. I'm sick as fuck, bro.
Ah, j'ai.
Nice. Corona. The beers.
Feel better, mec.
We love you.
We love you very much.
Rock and roll.
Rock and roll.
So,
That was the COVID guy.
I love Billy.
Great guy.
Great guy.
We love him. I miss him already.
Yeah, he's already gone. He's going to the moon. Nice. This dude's playing Kerbal Space Program.
Yeah.
He's going to get to the moon. Did you get to the moon? Oh, you're on Twitch? Dude, that's fucking sick. He's streaming. On Twitch or no?
Twitch.
Nice.
Send the link.
Yeah, dude, send us the link. I want to watch. I'm going to tune in. So sick. Dude, I gotta get into Twitch, to be honest. I feel like because I'm so involved heavily in academics and like language learning, and like don't get me wrong, like it's really nice to be like hyper focused on something, so I really feel like I'm learning a lot and growing. But there is the part of it that has the FOMO, like bro, I've never used Twitch. You know? Like I've never really used Discord. I'm not into like
I think
new
Discord
games.
is one for me. Like
that
I
just
have
missed out on
Discord and
this.
like
I use
the
it for
potential
class.
of Discord is huge.
Yeah.
Like yeah, we had Discord in a few classes. They love it here.
Yeah.
Also, like a couple of my friends from BU, like Tolu and like Faisal and a couple other dudes, they're in like a Discord channel, and like that's how they just communicate with each other and like do stupid shit. So like they added me to that, but like I just didn't keep up with it.
Yep.
But it was like
It's kind of cool, right?
Yeah. It was nice.
I feel like
They also have a lot of language learning Discords.
that's interesting. Nice. Yeah, I feel like I should. Well, I feel like right now because like I've got so many friends that speak French and Italian, I don't really need that too much.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, I might do that one day. I also feel like I might do that next semester because I just need to take it seriously. Like I would love to have a person that's just our relationship is just dedicated to language exchange.
That's
so
why
like,
I need to start an Italian tandem. Because
Yeah.
like with Carlo and Milo, like I speak a lot, but I really need to like just be able to have like a full-fledged conversation.
stop me every time I make a
Stop me
mistake.
when I make a mistake. Like ask questions.
Yep.
Because with Carlo and Milo, I'm just trying to.
You're not
fuck around,
practicing.
like,
You're not sitting down like reading a text and like how's my pronunciation, like what's this word mean,
Right.
what's this expression.
Like
It's
if they say some shit that I've never heard, I'll be like, yo, what does that mean?
Yep.
But it's, or like, you know, how would I say this? But like, I'm not like stopping every time. Like if there's something that I really need to express, I'll just switch to English for a sentence and then
Yeah.
go back to Italian.
Yep.
That's the downfall of having English as a native language. Anyways.
Yes, it is. Yes. Yeah, in terms of COVID predictions. So I think eventually that it's going to become really unpopular, and I think that's where, like, you know, democracy might trump in this situation. Like, hey, we'll, like, do something that the people want because, man, like, I wish that, like, the vaccine and the COVID messaging right now was that if you don't want to get vaccinated, that's your choice, but we're not going to expend hospital resources on you if you didn't get the vaccine,
I
right?
send it to the link.
Oh, really?
Ben.
Nice.
Okay, merci.
You know what I'm saying?
Hmm?
You know what I mean? Like, I wish the government was just like, hey, if you got COVID and you didn't get vaccinated, like, we're not going to waste hospital resources on you, and then we could have our freedom back.
You're saying like, if you're not vaccinated, we're not giving you hospital resources?
If you come to the hospital for COVID.
That's fucked up.
I think it's fucked up, but, like, I think you should assume that risk at this point, because I do think, like, not getting the vaccine is somewhat selfish. So, like, hey, if you truly do not want the vaccine and you get infected for COVID, it's like, what's, like, the childhood story behind this? It's like, it's not really The Boy Who Cried Wolf, but it's like, why should society like have your back if you're not having the back for society? Because like, for example, my uncle, granted he was a really unhealthy guy and like had bad issues, but like he got sick during the time of COVID and then wasn't really able to get like good treatment and he fucking died. You know? Yeah. Like, you know, pretty unhealthy guy, had a lot of other issues.
Did
but
he
like,
get COVID or did he?
No, it was not COVID related. It was also pre-vaccine, right?
I think if you're a tax-paying member of society, then you deserve the benefits of those taxes. I just think it's like too inhumane to say we're literally not going to treat you. Sorry.
I think that's true. But like, if a hospital were at capacity, because like, fuck, man, there's like everybody kind of wants the freedom back, right? Well, I mean, I think there's people who like are perfectly fine with less freedom for like more security. But like, if you are anti-vax and you say I'm healthy, I don't think that the virus is going to hurt me much, and you come into this angle of like confidence and stuff, and then let's say the hospital that day, just to be simple, is only take like 3 people, and like one person gets shot, one person has a heart attack, or like the ICU resources are like spent up on other things, and like here's this person who comes in with COVID-related illness, and it was totally preventable, and they didn't take the incentive. I think like at some point it could be totally reasonable to say like, we would not expend these resources on you because you had the opportunity to get free vaccination against this and you didn't take it.
I think that's like saying that the person who had a heart attack could have ate healthier for the last 10 years and like could have taken better care of themselves and like shouldn't have been 20 pounds overweight.
Yeah.
I think it's like the same argument, and I think that at the end of the day, like the healthcare system has a responsibility to take care of all of its citizens.
Yeah, that's true. Like doctors got that oath, which is like, I take care of everyone.
Yeah,
I forget what they say exactly. But yeah, I mean, like, yeah, maybe just being ridiculous. Because I don't really know how you call that decision. At the same time, like, that would only be the situation like, hey, we're at maximum capacity, everybody's dying, and these people have like other symptoms, and you could have been like preventable in the sense of like just going and like getting the fucking shot versus like, you know, being fat. It's just like, you know, you need to lose weight and like put in a lot of active effort and like make a lifestyle change was a little bit more difficult than like just going and get a vaccine in your arm. But at the same time, no, you're totally right.
Yeah,
like,
if you go
it is
hiking and
ridiculous.
like break your arm, it's like, oh well, you didn't have to go hiking. Like
Yeah.
I think that you could just extrapolate this onto other things, and at the end of the day, it's you just have to take care of your people.
But now at the same time, like the idea of like putting in the lockdowns is to just not overload the medical system. Like
Right.
is to not overload the hospital resources.
Right.
And so if the only thing overloading the hospital resources right now are unvaccinated people and they're holding back the rest of society, like
I am against the vaccine mandate, but I would rather have a vaccine mandate than have we're gonna deny you treatment if you don't get vaccinated. I think.
that's interesting though, because that's kind of saying like I'm able to make this decision better for you than you are.
Yeah, no, that's totally true, and that's why I think that the way we're doing it right now. I mean, of course, you can get into the ethical question, like the fucking trolley problem, where it's like, all right, say you do have one bed open and two people show up at the same time, and one has COVID, one doesn't. I mean, I still think it's first come, first serve, but like.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I agree with
But
that.
then what
That's
do you
probably the
do?
best way. Yeah. Yeah, like if somebody comes in and like needs to get COVID treated and it's like critical condition, they need to be on like ventilators for like 2 weeks or some shit like that, and you got them in there for a couple days, but then other people come in who like have the vaccine, you can't just like fucking jet them out to the road. Like I totally agree with that. But yeah, I guess I just want to like express my frustration. Like I'd rather have the freedom back, and like I don't appreciate the selfishness of like not getting the vaccine, especially for people who are like at risk and like. But I don't know. Like then at the same time, that does kind of tie back into the sake of like. Why do these people feel this way? Like, is it misinformation? Like, can we place this fault onto somebody else besides them?
Yeah, we're bad at, as a society, at communicating things.
Communicating's mad hard.
There's
You
a
know?
lot of yelling.
A lot of yelling. Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. But I do think eventually, like, people are going to be more, I mean, based on the current trend, like, I think people are going to tolerate less and less, like, more strict measures and, like, going to want their freedom back. Like, for example, at the observatory the other day, and, like, you know, all these people are academics, pretty liberal, and there was the dissertation and the thesis defense of Elise, and we couldn't have, like, champagne and, like, little, like, snacks and, like, celebrate after, which is typically what you would do, and everybody was upset.
Mm-hmm.
Like, there wasn't people, like, everybody was saying, like, this is too bad. There were people who were pretty comfortable saying, like, this is fucking stupid.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't hear many people saying, like, this is too bad, but I understand. You know, more people were more and more saying, like, this is really, like, kind of close to being unacceptable. And, like, people were, like, I'm blaming it on the COVID and, like, the times, like, whatever. But, like, there were some people who were, like, kind of pretty open to saying, like, I think this is fucking dumb.
I think that, yeah, we've definitely reached a place where as a society,
Like,
we've accepted the fact that this is something that's here. It's probably going to be here for a while. It might come back every year. And we have to figure out how to live as a society with this, not how to eliminate this.
yeah.
Fauci said the other week that we need to get to the point where we're below 10,000 cases a day in the U.S.
What are we at now?
Like 100K or like 90K.
That's awesome.
It's
That's
like
wild.
mad funny.
Yeah, but I mean, like, given that COVID comes in waves, like, I don't know, like,
Yeah.
this kind of depends on, like, the times, right? Like, oh, hey, like, wave 5, everybody go inside. Okay, like, go back outside. Wave 6, everyone go inside. Like, I don't know. I don't know what the right things to do, and I actually don't know when it's going to end soon. Like, I don't know. Like, for example, now we got the Omicron. I mean, actually, my prediction is kind of what, like, I think Brett Weinstein laid this out the best, where he said, hey, I think it's going to be the case that the vaccine, or, like, the COVID is going to get less lethal and then more spreadable,
Yeah.
which effectively means it's better adapting to a human host.
Right.
And yeah, I think that's a trajectory. It'll probably just be like another disease that we have with humanity that'll just like infect people every once in a while. Like,
So you think I'm trying to think of when, like, obviously the very beginning was the most intense impact on society, no doubt. Like when everyone was home, the government had to like send out like
yeah,
all kinds of like financial help to the people,
Yep.
to companies, just to make sure that society kept functioning. Since then, I'm trying to think like what the highest points of tension were. I mean, there's been a ton of debates. The vaccine is definitely like a big one. Do you think that other than that first point in the beginning, we've passed like the height of what COVID is to our society? Like the biggest one recently was like, just in terms of like dominating the news cycle, in terms of having influence on society, like Omicron has been like a big influence. It's been a big talk on our society. Like if you look at all the newspapers of the world right now, it's talking about Omicron, like things like this.
Yeah.
Like, do you think that we've passed the biggest peaks of this? Do you think there will be anything else that on the horizon that could be at that level regarding COVID in the future?
Yeah, like kind of like things with big effects in short impulse times. Because I think the permanent changes coming out of COVID, which are like harder to identify, like, well, actually quite simple, like, télétravail, or like working from home. I think those are going to continue because I don't think we're going to like totally get out of COVID. Like, for example, right now, we're going to go in and out of phases of like work from home, work in the office, work from home, work in the office. And I think that's going to have like a really big impact and change in society. So I think those little changes are going to add to big things. But do I think there's going to be another big one-time event that's going to happen? Yeah, because COVID
Or even
hit.
just something that dominates. Because
Yes,
let's
that
go through
dominates.
the timeline a little bit. COVID hits.
COVID hits.
Everyone
Stays home. Then the next big thing was masks. We're not prepared for COVID, right? Like I remember the problem was why were we not prepared for this? I remember was like kind of the big question that came up.
I
People
remember
were like,
Dan was saying like these are things that that we wouldn't have thought about, but like now all of a sudden
Like, why don't
the
we
need
have
for
masks?
excess bed capacity. Like I
Yeah.
remember him saying that like
Yeah.
in that voice, like you would have never thought in like December 2019. Like we need I hope that our society has excess bed capacity. Like look at how successful of a society we are because we have excess bed capacity.
Yep.
But now you can look at it and be like, wow, like this society was more well prepared than we were.
yep,
And that was like a metric.
yep, yep.
But yeah.
So like the first COVID hits. Oh, actually, even before that, it was like COVID hits China and Italy.
Yeah.
China and then Italy, and then everybody's just like, oh God, like the question was kind of like, is it going to come here or not? Which I think was in hindsight,
funny in
it's so
retrospect.
funny, like foolish to think like it wasn't going to come to the States. Like I remember I was working at the pizzeria and this Chinese couple comes in and they start talking to the owners. Coincidentally, her name Franco Salvatore, which is me and my older brother, so I thought that was pretty funny. And those guys come from Sicily, right? So the Chinese people come in and they're sitting there talking to the owners and they're like, hey, like, how's your country doing? And like, how's your family doing back home? And they're like, well, they're pretty good because the problem in Italy is Milano and my family's from Sicily, so it's a bit far. But like, anyway, like the COVID precautions are coming in there, And then they're asking the same questions like the family in China. They're like, yeah, they're not like from Wuhan, the affected area, but still like Chinese going to lockdown, the virus is actually spreading. So like, it's really worrying and bothersome. Hope it doesn't come here. Thank you for the pizza. Have a nice day. And then 2 weeks later, I lost my job. Lost my job at the pizzeria. They were like, hey, we're closed. I remember somebody was paying in money, and I was like, money all of a sudden felt so fucking dirty. I was like, shit, like, why am I touching this? Like, this is going to give me a disease, And I was like, damn, I wish you were paying with your card, And I remember sitting there thinking that, and that was a big deal. So those were like the original COVID things, and then lockdown hit, right?
Right.
Because cases started happening in the States, and they were like, oh shit. And like the big thing was New York City, right?
New York City was getting
New York City got
destroyed,
fucked. And I remember that summer, a little bit after lockdown happened. So like, happens in Italy, Milano, conversations happen about that. Is it going to come to the States? Comes to the States, lockdowns start happening. I remember I'm at Ithaca College and I'm in my lab, and then I remember saying like, tomorrow nobody comes in person. I remember taking one good last look at the lab, and I haven't been back since. I have not been back since. I still have a phone charger that's there.
Wow.
Then I remember I went home and I'm like, fuck man, one of my chargers is there. I hope it's being put to good use. And then I go home, and then me and Rose are like, holy shit. Because like, it wasn't like strict lockdowns in the States. It's just like institutions closed down and work from home.
That's what we've been here in Switzerland the whole time.
Yeah, it's not like the government mandating
Right,
it,
yeah.
It's kind of like individual institutions making their choices. But it's been pretty uniform nonetheless, and like the incentives are still there. Then we start like wiping down our groceries and stuff. People are asking questions like, why, we're not prepared. And then there's the other stuff that kind of became associated with COVID, where it's just like, well, now people are home and they're able to think like, like I'm getting this check from the government, and the working conditions before were totally shit. Do I have to accept this?
Yeah.
And then it was just like, man, like, the police are really racist and are killing all the black people. Like, should we accept this? And then it was just like, wow, people are going out and protesting, and it's like these people are protesting a cause, and like, should they be doing this because they're having mass gatherings and COVID is happening? that was happening during the presidential cycle, and like Trump is sitting there like having rallies and like bringing people together, and it's been known that his events were super spreaders, you know. I remember Bernie stopped and dropped out of the campaign for running for president, and said it was irresponsible for him because he needed to focus on his job as a senator to like worry about the pandemic, and like it was like he needed to worry about that as a more high priority, and he couldn't rally anymore. And I remember that was pretty significant. And yeah, after that, it was kind of like the first wave went through, and then the first wave gone, and then the people started to like see each other again. That was the springtime. We were more social. Summertime comes around, and then it was like, holy shit, we're gonna have a second wave, you know. And I remember I left for France. I got to France, and then a day before I arrived in France, they reinstated a mask mandate in public, like if you're in the public transport, which is, I remember arriving, like, you know, I've been to many major like metropolitan areas in the States, you know, like I know how fucking dense New York City is, but like I've never lived there for an extended period of time, and I arrived in France, and it was my first time being in Paris. It was my first time being in that dense of an environment during the pandemic. And I remember like going to the grocery store, and I was like, yo, there's like so many people in like a 1 meter radius. I remember looking at the sign like please keep 1 meter away from you and everybody else. I'm like, this is a fucking joke, you know, like this is a fucking joke. Like there's so many people in this grocery store, it's crazy. I go on the metro, and it's like, you can't sit down, like everybody's packed like sardines, like this is fucking crazy. And then a little bit, like 2 weeks after, there was another mandate that I put in, I forgot what it was, and a little bit after that it was the curfew. And then by the time November came, it was lockdown, you know? Or like not even November, I think it was like mid-October. No, because they put the curfew in when I was in Grenoble, and I went to go visit Connor. And I remember that was fucking crazy, because the night beforehand, everybody's talking, like, well, this is the last night we're gonna like walk around and go out and stuff. And then we decided that night that
October, you said?
It was in October. We decided that night that we were going to go, it was like a week before Halloween, because we did Halloween there. We decided that instead of staying at Connor's apartment that night, we were going to stay at his girlfriend's place, and like I was going to sleep on the couch. And I don't remember what time the curfew started, let's say 6 o'clock. And we left at like 5:30, or like 5:45, and it takes like half an hour to get there, you know?
So you guys had to like...
Yeah, we were outside, and it was a fucking ghost town. It was scary, and it felt so eerie and weird. Like wind was blowing, you see the swing moving on the playground a little bit, and like we're sitting there like, yo, like they're probably gonna be checking pretty hard because it's the first night. I remember we saw like kind of was like, all right, between these two buildings, there's a little bit of a park that's kind of hidden. We're gonna cut through there. It's gonna take a little bit longer in time, but we'll be able to be seen in the streets. Crazy. We were running along the fences, like hiding a little bit, and like ducking. It was so fucking funny. And then we got to her place, and then we stayed there until the next day, and we were able to go outside again. But like, yeah, that was fucking crazy. And like, I was able to take it that seriously again, because it was like, wow, like COVID spreading rampant, like nobody's vaccinated. And this was before a vaccine was like a thing at the same time, you know?
Yeah, I remember that wave was, because I got to Switzerland in mid-August.
Yeah.
And I came from Utica, New York, which is not like...
Oh, we were partying that summer.
Boston was big. Like, Boston was big on COVID. I don't think right now, but Boston had an outdoor mask mandate for like a year.
Yeah.
Mandate.
Like, yeah, it's weird going from Utica to... Oh, well, you went from like metropolitan area to Utica. I went from like Utica, Ithaca to metropolitan.
Right. And so then the thing was, I went from metropolitan area to... But that was before masks. Like, I was never in Boston during like COVID, really. Like, I left when they shut down. Then I went back to Boston, like, to visit Mia a couple times, and when I was there...
Actually, that was interesting, because that was the start when you started dating Mia. Because remember you were asking me, it was like, should I go back to Boston?
Right, yeah.
Because, like, COVID's starting, but, like, I'm talking to this girl, and I kind of like, I don't know what the fuck to do.
Yeah.
And so I eventually made a decision when the time got cut short, but, like, you're still able to seal the deal.
It worked out.
Dude,
yeah,
nice.
we only spent, like, a week together. It was a good week. It was my birthday. It was
Happy
fun.
birthday, belated birthday.
Thank you. She got me a shirt that said, "Everything's bigger in Texas."
Nice. Nice.
I love it.
Yeah.
Anyways, then... So I spent the summer in Utica. They didn't give like too much of a shit, but like you could still tell that it was a bit different, right?
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
With my push, like with my friends and family, like
it was more intimate.
I was very lax.
Yeah.
But then when, you know, like when you went to the store, like you would still keep your distances,
Yeah.
and you weren't like trying to like spread with a ton of strangers and all this stuff.
It was like friend groups became more intimate and locked, I would say.
Yeah.
Like you were chilling with your group,
Yeah.
but then it wasn't really much like mixing. Besides like parties,
Yeah,
like Stone's party.
parties.
So, like it was his birthday.
Yeah, it was birthday. It was birthday. Then I went to Geneva.
Yeah.
And I was like, holy shit, there's no pandemic here. Like I went mid-August and I was like, holy shit, like yeah, like there's masks sometimes in the grocery stores, but
Yeah.
like there's no pandemic. I was
Yeah.
like, holy shit, this is literally like when I left Geneva 2 years ago, or last year, there's no difference at all. And I was talking to Alicia about it because I did my quarantine at her house for 10 days. And I remember her telling me like, yeah, like I guess here we're just kind of like comfortable with, yeah, some people are going to get sick, but you know, we got through the original lockdown, and I think that we just really like our liberty here, and I guess we're just going to continue to live like this, like with COVID, and that's going to be it. And I was thinking like, wow, like maybe Switzerland does have like the formula, like maybe they know what's up, right? And then 2 months later, Switzerland was like, this region of Switzerland was the most impacted place in Europe, like
Yeah, I remember that.
they had the highest number of cases, like this canton. So that was crazy. I mean, I remember then, like you said, like it was just slowly, like you would hear like scientists are like worried that there might be like a second wave, and you're thinking like, okay, like maybe, but like there's like 10 cases today in the whole country, like it's okay. And then like they're like, scientists are seriously worried that in the winter time when people go back inside there will be another wave, and then it's like, okay, like maybe more people are wearing masks, and like you're starting to see more articles about it, but like still the cases are low, and then like the cases like double, but it's still 20 cases a day. And then like all of a sudden, like I remember there was like 4,000, and then there was like 10,000 cases in a day, and I was like,
Which is a
holy
lot
shit.
for Switzerland.
In Switzerland,
What's the
8
total
million people,
population?
8 million, 8.5. It's
That's
a bit
like New York
bigger than
City.
New York City, yeah.
Wow.
I mean, that's crazy.
Yeah.
Like there was 100 people dying a day in the country, that's a lot for 8 million people country. But yeah, anyways, then so I mean that was just like the big event. The second wave was a big event, and then like another big event after that was the vaccine, like starting to get administered in the UK and in the US.
Yep.
And then in other countries in Europe.
Yeah, I remember
it
that was
really
wild being in
slow in
Europe,
yeah.
because we were talking to our friends, and I remember like Ashley completed her vaccine cycle before I got my first dose, and
Yeah.
like 2 months beforehand.
I was one of the first people in Switzerland in my age group to get between 18 and 55.
Yeah, me too. Because we were looking hard for it because we wanted to go on the bike trip.
Exactly.
So I was going to Dr. Lib, and I was like, "Fuck, is there a because they were making it available if people they made it available for older people first, but if they canceled their appointment, you could grab it.
take it.
So that's what we were doing in
Yeah.
France.
Yeah, I don't even have that, but I had this was the first canton in Switzerland to open to that age group. And then I saw that, and then I was like, holy shit, and it was like 2 hours after the article came out, and so then you had to wait on a website, the bar would just load because there was too much traffic for literally an hour and a half, and then finally it got to the end, and then you could book an appointment, and I got my first dose on May 7th, which was one of the first people, like I said, of my age in Switzerland. But like our friends were vaccinated in the US in like March or April. March.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, it was nuts.
But yeah.
And then I remember like a FaceTime Ashley, and she was like, "Yeah, it's like over here. You know, like there's nothing going on. Like there's no fucking COVID. Like I remember one of the craziest things I think I would say is going from like after the second wave comes, and then the way they did it in France was, you know, they started progressively doing it, lockdown, like curfew, then lockdown, then we're in lockdown. I remember the lockdown lasting much longer than I thought. Like I remember I wrote down, I think that like if I use the previous width of the last peak, this is gonna go till like mid-February, and that's gonna be over. It was way fatter this peak. Like it was the width was so much bigger because in mid-February I think we were still in lockdown. You know.
Well, what happened was, I think we got into it. I'm trying to remember the exact time, but I think what happened was, I remember the first time that we ever heard about a COVID variant was when I was in Paris for Christmas, and we were hearing about the UK variant. They kept talking about the
UK variant, yeah.
And that one didn't end up like, that was the Alpha variant. That one didn't end up spreading like that much. And then I remember in the spring.
People were afraid of India.
Yeah,
People
that's
were
what I
like,
said,
this is going to be a cesspool.
Sharadeep, the dude that we stayed with, like I was, you know, chilling with him at work, like we were going to eat, and then all of a sudden he was like, bro, like, I know here, like, COVID has, like, gone down a lot, but, like, in India, like,
it's bad.
It's really fucking bad. Like, there's people in the streets just dying, and, like, like it was really terrible. Like, it was, the Delta variant was really just popping off, and that was definitely, like, the next big news cycle, like, after things started to open up again in the spring. And I remember, spring has never been my, like, favorite season. Like I like winter. I think like the snow is cool. I like the cold. Fall is probably my favorite season. It's just like nice weather, and like obviously summer's great because you like travel, you do fun shit, and like spring is okay. It rains a lot, but I've never been so happy as like May of 2021. Like this past year, like we made it through a long ass winter. Like shit was closed, and I remember going the first day that the bars opened with Carlo. Like you had to call hours ahead for a reservation, and we went to a bar and just got like a beer, and it was like holy shit, like
so much joy in this, you know.
Like mid-April.
I remember that was interesting because at the time, like we were both listening to like Dan Carlin's podcast about the war in the Pacific for World War II, and I remember him saying like, one thing that's wild about these lives, which is something you can never understand, you know, like how difficult it is to be a soldier on the front lines and stuff, but he said that one thing that really struck out to him is like how much they just appreciated a nice can of beans. You know, like you get like a nice thing of canned food and you're like, this is the best thing ever. And I felt that way just like sharing ice cream with Almir on the steps, you know?
Yeah, dude. Like having that beer with Carlo was like, holy shit, like
this is the best tasting beer I've ever had.
This is so fucking good. Like,
yeah,
it was a nice thing. And then Delta came around like in spring, summer.
Yeah.
And that was really big. That was really big in a lot of places.
Yeah.
So that was like the news cycle. And then of course like the vaccine has been a hot topic like ever since it came out in the beginning of this year. I don't think it's died down that much. Like, should we get the vaccine? Should we not? Whatever. Like, masks are still in the dialogue a little bit, but not nearly as much as the vaccine.
Yeah, like wear your mask in like crowded places. I feel like it's pretty accepted.
Yeah. And then Delta was big, and now of course Omicron like a few weeks ago comes through, and now boosters of course as well for the last like couple months. We talked about a lot.
Yeah.
But I feel
which
like
really surprised me.
Yeah.
I did not expect like boosters. They were like, I was like, booster shots? Like what the? I was like, what does this vaccine suck or something? Like what the? I was like, it's only about a couple months. Like you're telling me it's already doesn't work? Like what?
I remember when I first got the vaccine, Molly and I were like beefing, like fake, like kind of shit. Like yo, you got Pfizer? That shit sucks. Like,
Pfizer
versus
Moderna.
Jokes, right?
Yeah.
Like I got Moderna, and I was like, let's go. Which one do you have?
Pfizer.
Well,
Sorry,
anyways,
bro. At least it's not Johnson & Johnson.
Yeah, that's true.
Those people are like
They
fucking.
suck.
Yo, you remember that picture, that meme of like Eeyore who looks like his face is all fucked up from like Winnie the Pooh? He's got his teeth coming out like this, like drool coming out and shit. That's what I think when I think of Johnson & Johnson and AstraZeneca.
AstraZeneca.
No, I think AstraZeneca is gonna kill you. But this is all propaganda, and I feel bad for these. But I still believe it though. Still got those memes in my head, bro.
Yeah. No, but so like. I remember like saying to my sister like, yo, that sucks that you got Pfizer, and she was like, nah, it sucks that you got Moderna. And then my dad said, well, we'll see who wins, like it depends who has to get the booster shot first. And I was just like, haha.
What a joke.
Yeah.
Wow, it's so funny.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's wild. And now the boosters are coming into effect. Yeah, I mean like yesterday technically we broke the rules because we went to the gym, or 2 days ago, not having our second dose administered in the last 4 months. And if you want to go to the gym and like if they do check you, like you gotta have that booster card, you know?
Well, no, you can go to the gym, you just have to be masked.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Nice. Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, I'm gonna lose my pass sanitaire on February 24th because in France.
February 24th.
Yeah, because that's after 7 months when I got my second dose. So I'm gonna do that booster.
Yeah.
Which I'll do to have my rights, but
I need to look into the more specific rules in Switzerland because I only know how it applied to like working out.
Yeah.
But yeah, so obviously the booster is a hot topic right now. The Omicron variant's a hot topic. And I just don't know what the next. I mean, obviously you can't tell. Like you'll never know. But like where we're gonna go from here.
Right.
Obviously, it's created like a lot of societal changes around work. In the U.S. especially, a lot of people have like quit jobs.
Yeah, like the shortages for like fast food workers and like kind of like entry level jobs, service workers. It's just like
like Uber drivers and
they're just like, yo, fuck this, fuck you.
Yeah.
Like no healthcare, shit wages, long hours, gotta work 3 jobs to like make ends meet. Like it's pretty ass.
Unions have been like really doing strong things. Like the Kellogg's thing, did you see what happened in the end? They ended up like giving them most of their demands. They were
really?
gonna fire them.
Oh.
And then did you see Bernie went?
Yeah, I saw him post a picture the Tony the Tiger one.
Yeah.
It's like Kellogg's it's like we're gonna fucking like unionize at Kellogg's like Frosted Flakes, but instead it was like Kellogg's pay us more.
Kyle did like a segment about him going to talk to the workers, and there's like a video that like Bernie's PR team made it, but like it was mad inspirational. Like Bernie, like,
Dude,
truly,
I cry from some of Bernie's videos. I'm like, Jesus Christ, man.
there was like
Look
that
at that.
inspirational like music, and he was going around like how is this corporation like taking your jobs and giving them to desperate people in Mexico and paying them 90 cents an hour? That's a disgrace. Like
Yeah.
all this kind of stuff. Like he was just really like there for the people, like genuinely caring, like making silly jokes with the little kids that were there. Like it was just an inspirational thing to watch.
Yeah.
And yeah, in the end, they actually like ended up, because they were gonna fire them originally,
Wow.
and then in the end, they ended up giving them most of their demands, not all of them, but like a good amount of. They
Yeah.
won a lot for sure.
Nice, that's amazing.
So you're seeing that. You had the John Deere strike. There's a bunch of other big strikes going on, like
What's the
Alabama
one that just
coal
fired
miners.
everyone and said, fuck you guys?
That was Kellogg's, but then they.
Oh, they switched
In
it?
the end, they switched it
Oh,
around. yeah.
nice.
And then you also have Starbucks in Buffalo. There were 3 Starbucks stores that wanted to unionize. And then
They tried to stop that, right?
they tried so fucking hard. They flew in the CEO. They had like dinners for the workers. They were like, "Hey, like, how are things?" And then they tried to like have it so that all of the stores in Buffalo,
Shared workers or something? Like,
they tried to make it so that if they wanted to vote to unionize, because there were 3 Buffalo
it would
stores,
only be for you.
it would have to be a vote not based on these 3 stores, where like each individual store would vote to
Like per
unionize,
city?
but it would have to be like, all right, all of the workers in Buffalo are going to vote if they want to unionize or not. And so like obviously there were a bunch of stores who weren't interested in unionizing, but whatever the government like judge is
Local government?
no, like whichever like it's like the Department of Labor. Whoever the judge is for that, like, shut that down. They're like, no, each store will vote individually. And that was one point that Crystal made, was like, obviously Joe Biden is not the most competent man to be running the helm of our country, but like he did, or his administration did, like appoint better people to the Department of Labor, whereas like the Trump people were like much more against the workers. In a lot of cases, you've seen like them rule, the Biden appointed people like rule with the workers, which is like one thing that you wouldn't like necessarily think about, but it is like an important thing. So they said, no, like you're gonna vote store by store, and one of them recently voted to unionize. One voted no, and then the other result was like disputed or inconclusive, so there's like still more litigation.
Well, would the union work on like a national basis for Starbucks, or just
No, they voted that
Per store.
one store is
like there's unions? There's the workers of that one store are unionized.
yeah, and now I'm sure that if more stores were to unionize, maybe they could talk about making a bigger union. But nonetheless, that's huge. Like
Yeah.
Starbucks tried so fucking hard.
Yep. Dude, I'm so proud of them. I'm so proud of them. I can't believe they got it done.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, there's like a big labor movement that we're seeing, and it's like, yeah, our government is like pretty incompetent right now, but you're seeing like positive things kind of from the ground up, and
Yep.
like that's really cool.
Yeah, that's what I appreciate. I think a lot of that can come from just like, I think like in Europe, in France, for example, you get like, 35 or 40 vacation days a year. And so people really just take all of August and just
Yeah.
nothing,
Yeah.
And I think that's super healthy because it allows for a time of reflection that just hasn't happened ever in U.S.
And now we finally got that. Like,
yeah.
hey, you can't go into work, so.
Yeah. Because not only like in Europe do you have more vacation time, it's like everybody kind of vacations together. Where in the States it's like, hey, when are you going to take your 2 weeks vacation? You're going to like take 2 weeks off in winter and go down to the Bahamas or Florida, or like you're going to take 2 weeks off this summer and take your kids somewhere like a camp or something. It's like 2 weeks wherever you want, which like isn't really fucking anything. And then also it's not the same time. So now I think like that pandemic got everybody not working, people have been able to really reflect of like there's some nonsense going on in the States that it's good to see that it's like turning around a little bit. Yeah.
And yeah, so I'm wondering like what that trend will lead to. I mean, it's obviously leading to like better working conditions. Wages are going way up. There was one McDonald's, I don't remember where it was. There was one McDonald's where the workers like they were getting paid like $9 something an hour. Like
That's
$9.50,
insane.
right?
That's disgusting.
Yeah, $9.50. And so the workers came together and they said, listen, like, we're gonna go on strike if you don't start paying us $10 an hour. Like that's
Just
all we want.
$10?
$10. Like that was all they asked for.
$1 more an hour.
The McDonald's were like, nah. And then they were like, all right, then we're gonna go on strike. And then McDonald's fired all of them, closed the store for a few days, put a sign up on the wall, like realized that it was gonna be hard to hire people. And the sign on the door said, now hiring starting from $10.
Oh, really?
Which is crazy. 'Cause
Wow,
They
they
realized that it wasn't just these workers. Like nobody wants to do that shit job for $9. So it's like all right, I guess we have to pay these people $10,
Right.
and so it's just like, I mean, good for those people. Like I hope they find other jobs, but like, it's just like
You can't live on
$10
fucking $9-10 an hour, you know?
Yeah.
Like I remember when I was getting paid like for Beth like $20 an hour, and I was just like, this isn't really a lot when you got to pay for all your own stuff, you know? Like this really is still like quite. Like it's okay, like
survive,
you can
yeah,
survive.
for
Like
sure.
you're in your 20s, like
It's
you're
not
living just
extravagant.
like you're just living with your girlfriend, like it's fine, you know, like. But there were some things which just like, you know, like you kind of got to cut costs here and like you know, like you're still in that mindset, like you're not free. So like to think about like $9 an hour for people who are in like a family setting, that's crazy.
Yeah.
And especially for work like McDonald's, you know, like damn,
It's so shitty.
that's so shitty. Yeah, yeah, it's wild.
But yeah, so there's a big movement there, and then you have like the supply chain that's fucked up. That's pretty interesting. That's
That little what's the fuck? That's one of the funniest memes that come out of the pandemic, which is the supply chain issue. Not necessarily caused the pandemic, but like that one boat getting
the
stuck.
boat getting stuck.
The boat getting stuck. Where was that? It was like
It was
between
in the Suez Canal, like between Egypt.
the Arabian Peninsula.
Yeah.
So fucking funny. And then you see like the little crane that they had to try and dig it out. And like those cranes are big, you know, like construction cranes, but nothing compared to that boat. It looks like, you know, a crane coming along the size of my pinky finger trying to like move the table.
Yeah. And you're like, oh,
It's like, oh no, it's not working. And that literally like made such a difference in the world economy. It's fucking crazy. A boat got stuck and jammed the canal.
That's so wild.
That was so funny.
They were like losing billions of dollars a day, like just the world economy in general.
Yeah, that's so funny. So fucking funny. I'm trying to think. Another thing that
was one like I think one thing about that story that like is easy to appreciate is that like all of these things that we're talking about are so fucking complicated.
Yep.
But that issue
That was
was
just
like
so
it was just
simple.
like the boat is just stuck.
The
Like,
boat's
it
stuck.
just won't move.
We just need to move the
The
boat.
boats can't get through. Like we just need equipment to move the boat. Like there's no legislation being made. There's no nothing. You just need to move the
We
boat.
just need to move the boat. It's stuck. Oh my god. They tried right away too, and it's like so funny.
Yeah.
I wonder how they got it undone. I wish they videotaped it. Like it's moving. Like
I'm sure it is somewhere.
Yeah. Amazing. Another thing that I think is cool about the pandemic dynamic is like curfew dynamics were interesting when curfew was in place.
Yeah, I
because,
never lived through that.
yeah. Yeah, curfew is wild because for example, when we were in Grenoble when it first started, Halloween was a couple days after they put curfew in place. We were like, we're not gonna fucking not celebrate Halloween, you know? So I remember we went to the store and got like our dumbass costumes, which this is one of the things where people are really like anti-lockdown measures, like which I wasn't as much. Like I remember they were saying like, oh, like in restaurants, you're allowed to take off your mask if you're eating, you know? And they were like, well, this is fucking stupid. Like, what it's like, oh, like I'm eating now and I'm inside at a table, like is COVID not going to transmit? And so people kind of ran too far with that a little too much, and I think they were saying like all these measures are a bit stupid, and like, okay, like, or you could think about this as, we're going to try the best that we can, you know, like fucking just wear your mask until you go sit down, and it'll reduce the risk a little bit. Like the waitresses, let them wear their masks, like, you know what I mean? Like not the end of the world, but at the same time, it shows like the out of touchness with like the solution to the problem. Right. And I saw the same thing in the case of the fucking Halloween after they put the lockdown measures in place, because everybody was in the Halloween store buying costumes. Everybody was buying like party stuff and like candy and shit. And I thought that was so funny because we go in there. We're with me, Connor's girlfriend, her roommates, and then this other guy who's from Ukraine. And I love this guy because it was so funny. I was talking to him, and we were talking about like, you know, what do we do? Like, what would you do if you're out past curfew? And he said, in Ukraine, we have this expression about the cops. Fast legs are not scared. That was so funny. Like, fast legs aren't scared. And I was like, damn, man, this is the most... I remember Connor was like the most Eastern European thing I've ever heard. And I was just like, that's so fucking funny.
That's awesome.
That was so awesome. So we, the plan was, we were supposed to go to this girl Virag's place, and then everyone was going to stay there overnight, and we were just going to party until like 6 a.m. And then slowly that kind of deteriorated. I think she was like getting cold feet about having people there for that long. And then also
It was after curfew at this point.
yeah, because curfew started like 6, right? So the idea was everybody gets here before curfew and just stays till 6 a.m. Just like 12 hours, you know. It's just like I don't have room for like everybody to sleep, and then like everybody was there around like 2 or 3 a.m. It's just like I'm kind of tired, I want to go home.
Yeah.
So I think she was about to cancel the party until everybody was over, and they were like, "Yo, what the fuck?"
Before it started.
Yeah, and then everyone was like, "What the fuck?" I don't remember 100% what happened, but eventually we did end up going there anyway, and I think she became less nervous once we were all together because like. It's kind of scary times, you know, so like I understand. But we didn't end up sleeping there. Like I think everybody kind of went back, and I think because it was the night of Halloween, like the authorities were a bit less strict, and they weren't checking people, and like people weren't not necessarily on the streets partying, but like they didn't break people's balls if they were going home. Like for example, we had a 20-minute walk and nobody stopped us. But at the same time, like it creates a really interesting dynamic, you know.
For sure, yeah. It's like they could do something if they want to.
Yep.
And like that always weighs on your mind.
Yep. Had a couple slumber parties because of curfew. You know, like remember when I was like we all went to Jess's place. That was pretty cool and interesting.
There was curfew when I was there. Yeah.
When
Actually,
you were there for Christmas,
I was
right?
in there in Christmas, yeah. And because I remember we stayed at Jess's.
Oh, they did this weird thing last year. Oh, did you sleep there?
It was on the day of Christmas. There wasn't curfew.
Yeah.
But on all the other days I was there. Yeah, I slept on an air mattress or like a little floor mattress. It wasn't an air mattress.
Oh yeah, nice. Yep. Yeah, that was interesting. And I wonder if that's going to come back. To be honest, one of my predictions, I don't think they'll put in another curfew.
I don't think they will, dude. I think we're past that. Like,
Yeah, I think we're past that.
First of all, I don't think that the ICUs are
That's
overwhelmed.
stressed. Yeah.
And I don't think, now of course that could change. Like Omicron is still on the rise in the West, and like it could treat every population differently. We got to see. But yeah, I mean, for the time being, I don't think there's the need to implement those kinds of
Measures.
like have they implemented a lot of measures in France recently? I mean, I think they have, right?
I think they came out with something saying like you need to have like your mask on all the time, even if you're in public.
Well,
And-
outside,
Yeah, but like
right?
I've seen no difference.
Yeah.
And I don't even know, like I didn't see an official announcement. Maj, the 9-year-old girl that I babysit told me.
you?
Yeah. So like people aren't really talking about it, and I've seen no difference in the behavior. Maybe I've seen a little bit more masks, but I don't know if that's something I was trying to pay attention to since I had like a little bit of information about it. But yeah, you see people like classic. You go into the metro, you put your mask on. Second you're outside, rip that shit off. You know, and a lot of people do that.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Yeah, same. Yeah, here, I mean, they implemented mandatory télétravail, like work from home.
They did the thing with the dissertations, like no celebrations.
Yeah,
Yeah, they did that recently.
yeah. I'm trying to think if they did anything else of note. Nothing I can think of really.
They sent out like a letter reminding people recently that you have to wear your masks in your offices. Yeah. Because me and
They changed that actually too, yeah.
yeah, because me and Julia and Valeria, like, you know, when you're walking around the building with the other people for like the research lab, like you wear your mask on, but like, I don't know what it is, but I feel like there's this thing, and I remember Beth was talking to me about this, like, I don't know if I have to give her an introduction, like my supervisor from the States for research, she was saying how like there's this study saying like, because everybody, like during the early days of the pandemic, like everybody's yelling at the young people, mad at the young people, they're going out there and they're partying and they're not wearing the mask and stuff. Like, she was saying like there's something in the psychology where like they just fucking can't. To be honest, when I do feel as though when I'm with people in my age group who've been wearing my mask, I feel as though like it's symbolic of a barrier of mistrust, you know? And so when you're with your close friends and people that you like it's weird to wear the mask, you know? So like we all kind of take it off. And I think I've heard somebody talking about this, but not in the same context. I think it comes in if you're wearing your mask, you're hiding a lot of your facial expressions. So it's kind of like you're hiding something, or
Right,
you're like
makes
not
sense.
showing your information. So it comes off as dishonest.
Psychologically.
Yeah, so I think everybody in the same age group kind of like takes that off. But I think older people, they're not, like they don't have that as much. I think something clicks in people around like their 30s where they come like just professional family and less interested in social behavior and things. Where I still feel like for people in their teens and 20s, it's like, I need to be talking to people in my age group and doing shit all the time, you know?
Yeah.
And so I do think there is something different in the psychology. But like, yeah, for example, we're in our lab and like, we're all the same age and like, we just mask off, professor comes in to talk to us, mask on, you know? And there was a bit after that letter came out where we were wearing our mask, but like for 2 days.
It was the same at our office. They said, because before the rule was, because we have the building which has a bunch of different offices in it.
Yep.
And then there's our office, which is all like open, like like you have a desk, but it's
Yeah.
all in one big room.
Yep.
And so that big room for Arma Suisse, you don't have to wear the mask. Like that was when for the first few months of the year, and then when you were in the rest of the building, like elevator, lobby, whatever, you had to have it.
Right.
But then they changed it maybe 3 weeks ago or whatever to you have to have it on at all times unless you're at your desk. So if you go to the kitchen, which is in our room, like you have to put it on. Like unless you're like eating in the kitchen, or if you're at your own desk, then you have to have the mask.
Yeah.
And then this past week, but like we had it for a couple days, and then like I didn't see a mask like at all. Like
Yeah, that's the thing. Like we're saying this because we know consciously that it's right, but subconsciously, like I think the worry's not there for the population after we got vaccinated.
Yeah,
You
and
know?
then I mean I would see people like even the bathroom, which is outside of our room, so like technically you have to put the mask on for the bathroom.
To be honest though, I'd be doing that anyway.
I put the mask on for the bathroom.
Bro, I went to this outhouse in Nice. It was disgusting, and I was like, thank fucking God there's a pandemic, and I have a mask on me, because I was like, yo, there's a biohazard in this outhouse because it's disgusting. Bro, my mask smelled like shit after that. I had to wash it. I was like, I can't even put this back. I fucking took the mask out. I let it air out. I was in Nice. I was on the Promenade des Anglais, which is so cool. Like you're along the beach in the water, and it's like actually. It's stone beach, which is the only thing bad about Nice. It's not sand. To be honest, like it's kind of nice though because you're not like sand dirty, but at the same time the rocks are uncomfortable. But I left it on the rocks so it would air out. I picked that shit up when we were leaving. I was like, yo, it still smells like outhouse. So there are some times where I really am grateful that I have a mask on me.
Anyway, yeah, no, for sure.
It is
also,
useful.
Like, when I bike, sometimes I wear it because it's fucking cold.
Oh yeah, and it really helps. That was the same thing when we went snowboarding. I was like, I'm kind of happy I have a mask. And I remember that too. Me and Connor went snowboarding in October last year. And they were like, you need to wear your mask on the mountain, which is like kind of silly because it's like open air and shit, which I feel like after vaccine, like nobody would take the measures that seriously. But I'm just going to keep this down for like the last story. So the student Maximovich is like...
You want beer?
Yeah, I'll take a beer. Christmas beer?
No, we don't have the Christmas beer. I'm sorry.
Oh, I just mean like beer on Christmas.
Yeah. But there is the Bière de Noël that we don't have here. I'm sorry.
Triste. But this fucking guy, during the final exam, which is so funny because the official policy of the observatory is like, hey, like air out the room as much as possible, everybody wear their mask. And this was something that was really interesting in September. They said, you guys, it was a big debate of whether or not the institutions in France were going to make it mandatory to go to class. We're going to make the vaccine mandatory to go to class.
Right.
And in the end, they decided you don't have to have the vaccine to go to class, which I thought was interesting because for me, the decision could have gone. I was like 60%. I thought that they were most likely going to put in the vaccine mandate for the universities because like
Vaccine mandate.
yeah, because like the universities are pretty liberal. You thought like if you want to go to class in person, you need to like be vaccinated. That's what I predicted and that's what I thought. But eventually they said like no, you don't need to go to class. But they just said air out the room as much as possible, and everybody needs to wear their mask during the courses. So
Here they have vaccine or test to go to class.
oh really?
That's a mandate. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm really surprised that they didn't do that in France. To me, that was a big shock. Mais
Pas les pieds.
pas les pieds. Oh, this is good.
Yep. It's
Yeah.
good. It's from the Valais.
Yeah, it's the local beer.
Yeah.
Nice. So during our final exam, it's me and like 12 other professors. And what I liked is, you'd think that somebody disrespect the rules, they would maybe like do this with just like students in front of them, and they wouldn't really make that same move in front of their colleagues. But we're sitting there and like the door's open, and this guy's like, hey, I'm cold. Are you guys cold? I'm gonna close this door. Fucking close
Same
it.
guy? Or
Yeah, same guy. Like, obviously everybody was cold and uncomfortable, and they were only leaving it open because that's like the right thing to do, like professionally, like respect the COVID rules and stuff. And then he was like, I'm cold. Time to close the door. Anybody got an objection? What do you think? We okay with this? Yeah? Okay. Like, to be honest, nobody did say anything though, which I thought was so fucking funny. So yeah, I really appreciated that. I like that a lot. I thought that was really interesting, like COVID story. We should have broke these out earlier.
Yeah, we should have.
Yeah.
That's okay.
Yeah.
Next time.
Yeah. What else is interesting COVID story? To be honest, the more I'm thinking about it, I'm glad we're doing this at the end of the year because it is kind of like forcing a reflection because a lot of shit did happen and there's been a lot of different points in the pandemic where like there were different primary talking points. And what I think is interesting is that none of them really came to an answer. It's just kind of like a more prominent problem came forward. Like, do you think they're talking about, okay, in the future we need to stockpile masks for the next pandemic? Remember we were talking about, like, how are we not more prepared? Do you think we're going to take initiative to be more prepared for the next one?
No.
I don't either.
I think that what's going to happen, in the US at least, is what's going to happen is they're going to be like, yo, we need to have masks, we need to have like tests like ready for the next, like we need to like be ready to make tests for any disease that comes along, and then people are going to be like, these people, they never want the pandemic to end, like these kinds of like,
they're going to waste our money and not spend it on your kids.
Exactly.
They always bring children into it whenever there's a problem that they can't reason for.
I agree though, we should spend more money on the kids.
Oh, in the States?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Like, dude, one of my, do you know, like, the Malcolm Gladwell books?
Yeah, like 10,000 hours.
Yeah, did you read, I don't remember which one
I
it
didn't
was.
read any of them.
You didn't read any of them? Yeah, he like 10,000 hour rule came from Outliers.
Mm-hmm.
So I read Outliers, Blink, and then there was the third one. By the time I got the third one, I got halfway through and I was just like, okay, I'm kind of sick of this because it's really coming off as like a pop psychology book, which is, oh, like this is the magical key to everything, you know? But there was this one interesting story that he told, which was, I think I lost it, which was, what were we just talking about?
Malcolm Gladwell.
Yeah, before that.
We were talking about how we're just creating more problems, spending money on the kids.
Oh, yeah, he was talking about Sesame Street, because Sesame Street, actually, what it was really trying to do was to provide, because television became affordable for every household, right? But preschool was still not affordable to every household. So they wanted to have a way to, like, educate kids, because it was shown at the time, like, kids who have preschool are way more prepared for, like, kindergarten, like, school, and then, you know, the initial conditions being only slightly different causes massive outcome differences in the end.
Right.
So they said, hey, Sesame Street was really trying to, like, make differences and, like, provide children with, like, an education before preschool for, like, people with lower income who are unable to, like, afford going to preschool. And that was really, like, the first time, like, I think that was kind of, like, if I understand properly, I think that was the genesis of, like, educational psychology.
Interesting.
Of, like, how do we properly give people good doses of information, you know?
Yeah. I mean, probably not the genesis.
No, I think, like, in children, for sure. Like, it was just Sesame Street that kind of took the initiative on this. Because...
Oh, you mean, I thought you meant, like, Malcolm Gladwell making this point was when we started looking at how educational outcomes...
No. It was him talking about Sesame Street bringing this problem and, like, taking it on head on, because...
I think that Sesame Street was the first thing to start attacking this problem in this way.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And they remembered that there was a result where I don't remember what it was, but they talked about this Christmas special that they did, and the guy in the show, like, they kind of made some jokes to, like, to be honest, now looking at this with the perspective of somebody learning a foreign language, I totally understand more, because it was effectively a joke about Christmas where if you understood the joke, it helps you organize the information in Christmas in some way. I don't remember what it was. In Sesame Street. But what they actually found out after running it is, like, the joke just went over the fucking kid's head. Like, all of them.
Okay.
And then what they found out more, which is an interesting result, which is they needed to show the episode multiple times. And that was, like, the most effective way for them to learn. It's not like show it to them once. So then what happened was cartoons, and they started doing this in general. Like, I actually thought about it, and looking back on Cartoon Network and even Nickelodeon, they ran reruns all the time. And that's actually done by design, because it allowed kids to actually learn and, like, reinforce, because you learn through repetition.
I mean, some of those SpongeBob episodes, I've seen dozens of times.
Oh yeah, that's why I'm able to quote all of them so
exactly.
often. And it comes from that, which I think was interesting. And that came from an initiative of, like, okay, how can we spend money in a smart way to better prepare our children for the future? So I think spending more money on kids is a good thing.
I think it's a great thing.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, now the kids, they were going to give the kids universal pre-K in the bill.
Is that going to happen?
Well, first of all, they took that out of the bill, and then it became this thing where it was like...
Universal pre-K for those who want it?
Yeah, basically, no. But like, not for like the people get to decide. Like the fucking states get to decide. So like, you would end up just creating more of a disparity because like states like New York would opt in, and then states like
Arizona and Florida
would opt out and be like, no, like I'm not fucking implementing this. I'm not paying money on this. Like, obviously the U.S. government would be like providing money, but like also the states would have to like take on some kind of burden.
Yeah.
And then also, it wasn't even covering all the kids. Like, basically, Kyle said that this would be like covering like 5 to 10% of kids in the end. Like, after you factor in the fact that a lot of states wouldn't accept it, and then within that, it was like you had to be below a certain income, and then it's, I don't know, like universal programs are the move, I think.
Yeah, I think so too. Dude, when I was in Arizona, like I fucking felt it. I felt the difference, you know? Like in the popular, I felt the difference in education. I was just like, holy shit. Like if I went to school here, I'd be a top performing student, you know? And I also like felt, I don't know.
You mean at the university level or like just
like
general population?
Yeah. I mean, like, generally, like, in my day-to-day, I was surrounded by, like, the scientists and, like, you know, the Osiris Rex headquarters who came from everywhere. So, like, it wasn't an actual local representative part of the population. But when I did interact with the population, like, I remember I had this roommate, and he was pretty cool. And he was telling me, he was like, yeah, dude, like, there's certain shit that's, like, my high school is just, like, a joke. And, like, you can totally, like, feel the people, like, we know that our education is really bad here. And, like, people talk about it in government. But then there's people who are, like, the government's not prepared to pay teachers more than like $23,000 a year.
Damn.
Like they're so underpaid there.
Did you see the thing in one of the Dakotas?
No.
With the hockey game and the teachers? They did this thing where, you know how like in between periods at hockey games they bring on like they do like stupid games on the
yeah.
So they brought on like 6 teachers and Jamie, pull that up. And they had like 6 fucking teachers, like they had like jerseys and helmets on, and there was $5,000 in $1 bills, and they had to be on their knees and just grab fucking $1 bills and put them into their jersey so that they could pay for supplies for their students. Because it wasn't funny. Like, yo, like come play and like you can win the money that you get. It was like this is so that your students can have like notebooks.
Wow.
Yeah.
Holy shit, they're playing Hunger Games with the teachers
Yeah,
such that the winner of the Hunger Games can like pay for supplies for their students.
Holy shit, dude, that was so bad. That's so crazy. Like, because it's just not provided. Like.
Yep. Yeah, this is where I think U.S. takes like individualism too far. Where like in France they do it a bit better. Because in France it's like we're gonna fucking tax you because like we know there's no like market incentive for these things that are fundamental in our society. So I think France does that a bit better in some regards. I think they're a bit overkill, and I definitely like really appreciate individualism much more after being in France. But like, holy shit, man! Like, how do we not have sufficient money supplies for like school kids to like do their arts and crafts or like have notebooks and shit? You know, like that's kind of fucking wild. That's OD.
Yeah.
But at the same time, bro, like, yeah, I'm not gonna prepare for the next pandemic. Give my kids money.
What?
That's what we're talking about. Like, you're saying that in the future, because we're talking about how in the pandemic, it's not as though one problem necessarily gets solved, the right answer is found. It's just kind of like the next problem kind of comes into the spotlight, and that's the main talking point.
Yeah.
And so the one that I really think is a prime example of this case is we were saying, hey, we were ill prepared for the pandemic, and we could have been prepared. We could have had like the facility to be able to make tests faster. We could have had the ability to rapidly give masks to everybody in the population, or distribution centers that were general purpose that could just, hey, we've got this factory here, and like, fuck, just make these masks, you know?
You're saying like a general purpose factory?
Yeah, like, so, you know, people like proposing these ideas and shit like that. We could have had that beforehand, so like, we should have this prepared for the next one. And I haven't heard anybody talk about general preparation for the next, granted, like, we're still in the pandemic, so like, it's too early to judge.
And
but
now, granted, like, we will be more prepared for the next pandemic just because of the fact that we've been through one. Like, we know what this is.
It kind of depends. Spanish flu was 100 years ago. We're not prepared for this one.
No, I'm saying if it comes in 10 years, like.
Dude, I hope it doesn't, bro. That'd be ass.
That would be ass,
yeah. It could be cool again. I might be like, dude, I hope another pandemic hits. Like, I'm sick of this commute. Bro, but that time we'll have meta. So, like, I can have an in-person experience from home.
Bro, do you think they're going to make you go to work, like...
Through Meta?
Yeah.
Oh, my God. What if, on Meta, they implemented commute time? So you have to, like, get into a virtual car and then drive to virtual work? That'd be fucking sick. I would appreciate that a lot. Yeah, but do you have any predictions about what the future's going to hold for the pandemic and how it's going to pan out?
Um...
Actually, yeah, you go first, but then I'm going to try and lay like some specific try and do this with dates, even if you think it's totally wrong.
Right. Okay.
Like, where are we gonna be in
let me think about
February? Where are we gonna be next
3 months.
spring, summer? Do it by season.
All right. So I think that right now we have Omicron popping off, but I don't know. So I saw that there was like questions about this, but I don't think I ever saw an answer.
Yeah.
Was that we know that the big spike in South Africa was from Omicron. Then there was this huge spike in Europe going around, and like it was spreading really fast, like in France and Switzerland, obviously. But I think that at the beginning there was speculation of like, we think that this is spreading so fast because Omicron came here before we detected it in Europe.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I never saw a conclusion on like, yes, all of these cases are Omicron or all these cases aren't Omicron. Now I would guess that most of them are.
Yeah.
Switzerland is already past the peak of the, like it's going down again, the cases. I think that the measures that they put in have helped. And I'm sure there will be a spike again after the holidays.
Yeah, I definitely think we're gonna have another wave, and probably for me, I think minimal 3 more waves
Like
of COVID
just in general.
In general.
For the rest of the time.
which would probably realistically take us to about next fall. You know, I think we'll get another one next spring.
1 or 2 waves, two waves per year, because this is the 4th wave, and we're almost 2 years after the pandemic started.
Yeah.
So yeah, so I think we're gonna see like the cases are gonna continue to go down for a little bit. We'll have a spike, but I think it'll, by spring things will start to be okay. I think that this summer will be a lot like last summer and the summer before,
Like a nice ass
things are
summer.
open, a nice ass summer. And I think that we're definitely, unless some strain, which again this wouldn't be evolutionarily favorable for the virus, but I do think that the new strains are going to continue to be like Omicron or even less deadly.
Less lethal, yeah.
So I think that it will become something that we are more able to deal with as a society. I think we'll have spikes now and again, but I think that after maybe this wave or within a couple waves, I'm going to be like, it's going to be next year and we're going to watch this and I'm going to laugh at myself because all this will be wrong. But like, I feel like we're going to get to the point where we're not gonna, like this wave for sure, the measures that they put in are so much more lax than they were the one last fall and last winter, right?
Yeah, let me think about this because there was the wave in France that I missed, which was the initial one. I arrived in France just as the second one started, and then it was curfew and lockdown.
Yeah.
The third wave came, they reinstated the curfew.
In the spring.
Actually, I don't think they ever fully got rid of the curfew. We got out of the second wave, and then they put curfew in, but curfew just stayed through the third wave. And then they got rid of curfew for the end of the third wave. And that was actually really interesting, which is something I want to talk about too, because during that time I went home. So I went from France where COVID was super like the rule, curfew was the rules, right? Masks everywhere.
Still in June, it was.
Oh yeah, in June.
Wow.
Yeah. I go home in June 2021. I'm in Utica. Nothing.
Yeah.
Not a mask in sight.
Yeah,
I'm going to the fucking gym, bro. Like I'm going to the
no
fitness
masks
mill.
in the gym. Like I don't think I wore a mask in Utica. There probably was 1 or 2 times. I'm trying to think, but I can't think of one off the top of my head.
Yeah.
Like I do think there was like 1 or 2 times where I went like somewhere somewhat serious. Like maybe I went to the bank. I don't think I went to the bank, but like something like that, for example.
Yeah, everywhere I went when I was home, like I did not need a mask, and it was honestly like it was bad. It was like
like
the fuck you
people
doing?
looked at you.
It was like,
wearing a
holy
mask.
shit.
And actually, I should have mentioned this before, but like when I came to Switzerland the first time, like I was quarantining, so like.
Are you telling me this too? Like you're wearing a mask, like the fuck you doing?
Yeah, people like I would be wearing a mask outside to like go to the ATM or something while I was.
You getting some stares?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they were like, "Yo, like, why is this guy wearing a mask?" And that was how I felt in Utica as well. Like, people were looking at you funny.
Yeah.
I think on the train I had to wear a mask. That was it, between Boston and Utica.
Are you doing the Amtrak?
Yeah.
Oh, how'd that go?
It's nice. I mean, it takes way too long to get from
So
Boston to
slow and
Utica.
expensive, right?
It should be faster than the car, but it's not.
Yeah, that makes no sense.
Yeah, it takes like 7.5 hours. It actually was not expensive at all. It was like $19 because
Oh,
I
really?
think demand is down.
Oh yeah. My flight to go back home to the States was like $200. It was like $100. No, it was each way.
Okay, yeah, me too, dude.
It was like $150
normally it's
across
like
the Atlantic.
Normally it's like $1,000 to do round trip.
I feel like normally it's like $600.
I don't know, like I think it cost like $450 for me to come here like last year, and I think it was the same when I went to Geneva the first time.
Yeah.
I really do think it's like normally 800 minimum.
I don't think so, because when I went, my first time coming to Europe, the first time I came to Europe was, it was October, like during holiday season. But my first time coming to Europe was October, and I did New York, I did JFK, Iceland, Geneva, and then I did Paris to LA to Tucson, Tucson to New York, Tucson to Syracuse. That entire trip, I think the ticket was $1,000.
Okay, well,
yeah,
and that's a lot.
Yeah. So I think typically going from like it depends. If you're leaving out of Syracuse, maybe it could be like $1,000. But if you're flying out of JFK and you're coming to like a European city, I'd imagine that it's probably like 600, 700 normally. But yeah, like during like the COVID tickets, I literally got a ticket for like 150.
Wow,
I was like, yo,
that's insane, dude. I got I think it was 480 round trip when I did my Boston trip, which is not that bad.
That's so good. Mm-hmm. Did you fly out of Boston when you came back?
I flew from
Syracuse?
Geneva, Boston. No, wait. Geneva, Amsterdam, Boston, Amsterdam, Geneva.
Okay, so you came back to Boston when you left Utica.
Yep.
Okay.
I went to Boston. I landed in Boston, stayed there for the weekend.
Because you and Mia, right?
Went back to Utica for 2 weeks. That was my graduation weekend, so I was like, everyone was in town.
I went to Utica first and then Boston.
No, I flew to Boston.
Graduation weekend.
Spent graduation weekend there, like saw everybody. Went home to Utica for 2 weeks consecutively.
Yeah.
And then during that weekend in between, Tolu and Mia came to Utica. Mia was there for like the weekend, and then Tolu was there for like a week. And then I went back to Boston that weekend because like I had already planned to go there because like that was for my like that was my original flight, and then I extended by a week.
Right.
So I was in Boston for one weekend again, and then obviously I flew out of Boston, so I spent like a day or two there the last weekend as well. So I was in Boston for probably like the 3 weekends, 3 of the 4 weekends, and then Utica for like the 3 weeks and one of the weekends. So
it's kind of wild, so much back and forth.
It was back and forth, yeah. But my dad drove me home for my graduation and drove me back I think he might have drove me back 2 times.
Have I driven you there the most out of everyone?
My dad, well, if you divide it between my mom and my dad, it might be close, but I would guess that my parents probably have it.
Yeah.
But you're definitely top 3.
Nice.
Yeah. Anyways, what we're talking about? We're talking about COVID.
Oh yeah, because I went from Paris when it was curfew, Utica there was absolutely nothing, and then I came back to Paris, and curfew was over with.
Yeah.
And I was just like, it still wasn't as free as Utica because you needed to wear like a mask in public, or you needed to wear a mask on the metro and shit. But like, there were events, there were people doing stuff. Like people didn't really have fear to have like parties and things, and it was like I was saying earlier, when like the first wave kind of ended when I was in Ithaca. It was so nice.
Yeah.
To be honest, like,
dude, Utica was so fucking chill.
It was so fun.
Yeah, I would also like Lebanon and Bosnia. There was nothing.
Oh yeah, what was like in Bosnia with COVID?
Bro,
I mean,
there was no pandemic. Like it was like Utica. It was.
I mean, you caught it during COVID though, right? Do you think they ever took it seriously?
Apparently, it was popping off. They never like really took it seriously since like the first wave or 2. They made you wear a mask when you went in the bank. Mjenjačnica is one of my favorite words that I learned in Bosnian because it means currency exchange office. Mjenjačnica. Yeah.
What about like Sarajevo? Because I feel like Bosnia is mostly countryside. Even in the city?
Not at all. There was no fucking nothing. Couldn't tell.
Damn, it's wild. I need to go to that country. Beautiful place.
Dude, yeah. I want to go again. I don't know when. Like, I have so many places I want to go this summer.
Yeah.
I want to go to Bosnia. I want to go to Sweden. I want to go...
Yeah, I think Sweden's my number 1 priority. I think I want to go to Sweden and Thailand.
If Bellman goes to fucking Bosnia this summer...
You're going?
I'm going. And Senad, if he goes as well. Apparently, Bellman was saying that...
Senad's not your Bosnia anymore?
Senad doesn't fuck with going to Bosnia, and he's a Serbian apologist.
Bro.
No, Dom actually said that.
That's silly.
So this is kind of funny. So I don't know the story.
Senad did almost die because of medical malpractice in Bosnia.
In Bosnia, yeah, because the Red Bulls and shit.
Yeah, this dude had so much Red Bull. He thought it was alcohol poisoning, and then he found out it was Red Bull poisoning. And then okay, to be honest, this is pretty fucking similar to the treatment I just got when I was calling Amélie for the French health insurance. Okay, so context: French health insurance is supposed to be available for every student, right? So I go through, the name of the organization is Amélie, and then they're open from like 8 to 5. And so I'm in the train station at Annemasse the other day. I think I told this in the beginning. I called them, and then I'm on hold for like 30 minutes. So like I call them, robot, I tell them information. Okay, yeah, boom. So that happened, and then the lady was just like, fuck you, and hung up the phone call. Same shit happened to Senad. Senad went to the hospital at like 3 o'clock in the morning. Talks to the doctor. Doctor's like, okay, wait in this room. And then the doctor literally waited until 4 o'clock till the shift was over and left Senad in the waiting room for an hour when he was like about to die. And then he left, and then the next doctor took care of Senad. Just because the doctor was close to the end of his shift, he didn't want to start fucking with Senad.
Jesus fucking Christ.
Isn't that so bad?
Yeah, that's so bad.
So I think that's probably why he doesn't want to go back there. Because he had caffeine poisoning.
I don't know if that's what's hitting him.
Well, I don't know either. No idea.
Anyways, his town, his like town or like small little region in Bosnia is like the north, because there's 2 regions in Bosnia where there's the Bosniak Muslim population, and one is like you start in Sarajevo and then you go like to the north, so it's like kind of along. Actually, the better way to put it is that the Republika Srpska, where there's the Serbs, Bosnian Serbs, they're in Bosnia's a triangle. And like, just imagine it like
the whole west side is like a corner of Croatia.
It's an equilateral triangle, let's say, and the point is in the bottom, and then the straight line on top.
What? To me, like I think like here's Croatia, which like hugs the coast, and then there's the Bosnia on the west that's like curving along Croatia. And then I don't know what's on the right side. Like the top, is that Serbia? And then on the bottom, is that Montenegro?
The top of it is Croatia as well. Croatia's shaped mad weird. So like
Croatia's the weirdest shaped country I've ever seen.
You have Bosnia is just, it's not exactly this, but think of it as an equilateral triangle where the
most north tip is
an upside down equilateral triangle. So it's a tip on the bottom and it's a straight line on the top. Okay. And then Croatia hugs the left side that goes up like this and the top side, and then the right side is Serbia. And then it also borders Montenegro a bit on the bottom. So the line where it borders Croatia and the line where it borders Serbia, like along that, and then inwards on both of those lines is Republika Srpska. So it's shaped like Croatia, but like the other way.
What do you mean Republika Srpska? That's where like the Serbian Bosnian Serbs. Okay, yeah.
So then Bosnia, like the Muslims in Bosnia have like the top left corner. And then in the middle of the country, on the right, hugging the Republika Srpska from Sarajevo, which is kind of in the bottom right of the country, and then up, like, so it's like a line like this.
Yep.
So Belman and like, I'm actually not sure where most of the Utica Bosnians are from. I think Belman said that they're mostly from the top left corner. Senad is from the top left corner. Belman is from the right side.
I see.
And so Senad comes from this one little region, this one little town in the top left corner. And
was he born in the States?
Like his family.
Okay.
His apparently his town during the and I don't know like how big of a scale this was, if it would be like the equivalent of like just like Utica or like Oneida County or like the Mohawk Valley. I don't know like exactly how big this was, but the leader of this like town or county like tried to declare independence from all of the countries around and just start like their own little kingdom in the middle of the war. And, like, just be like, yo, we're our own thing.
In the war? During the war?
Like during the war. Nice. And it was like, yo, like we're our own thing. Like we're not going to get involved with this. And so for that, like apparently he gets accused of like not being against the Serbs. And so then that was why Dom called Senad a Serbian apologist.
Okay, nice.
Yeah, just
nice.
because he's from
that town. Is that Senad's uncle?
No.
Okay. No relation.
No relation.
Just the town.
Yeah. I think it was Senad actually.
Was it Senad?
Yeah, it was Senad.
Bro, I knew Senad was like in his 30s in 1990.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, Bosnia is a crazy place.
Yeah. Oh, that's another big thing too about the pandemic. Like, I hope that we're in a COVID low during the summer, or that like it's not serious and like you can have free travel, because I want to go to see Antoine
in Sweden. That would be sick. Yeah, I'm thinking of keeping this place as a home base. How long do you have your...
Moi, j'ai l'appartement jusque le fin juin. Et ensuite, je dois partir. Et ça, c'est un peu compliqué parce que j'ai la soutenance de le stage. Je pense que le début du juillet, et je pense que ça, c'est le 2 juillet. Et je pense que je perds l'appartement le 3 juin. Donc, ça n'a aucun sens. Et je dois probablement trouver du logement pour quelques jours en juillet.
Prendre un Airbnb ou un truc comme ça.
Oui, peut-être je peux probablement rester avec quelqu'un d'autre. Ouais. Et ensuite, j'aimerais bien juste partir tout de suite et aller en Suède.
Ouais.
Parce que ma rêve est que d'aller en Suède pour voir un point et aussi explorer le pays un petit peu. Et si je trouve une thèse, je ferai la thèse octobre. Donc, idéalement, j'aimerais bien d'aller en Suède pour quelques semaines, probablement 3 semaines, parce qu'un point va finir son stage le 14 juillet. Et donc, ensuite, probablement, genre, je peux être en Londres, faire des autres choses, profiter bien
Genre, chaque fois que tu dis Londres, je pense à Londres.
Ouais, pas Londres,
Ouais.
Londres.
Londres.
Et genre, je peux faire n'importe quoi quand on est au travail.
Ouais.
Et ensuite, quand il va finir, peut-être que, genre, on peut explorer la Suède un petit peu.
Ça serait top.
Et si j'ai l'argent, j'aimerais bien aller à Thaïlande pour voir des mondes pour quelques semaines
Bah,
aussi.
ok, mec, parce que si, pensons un peu, si tu vas en Thaïlande, tu ferais. Si tu vas pas en Thaïlande, tu ferais quoi?
J'aimerais bien. Ça, c'est un peu compliqué parce que, genre, tu sais que ma rêve est d'aller en Italie pour une période longue. Et j'ai pensé que peut-être, j'aimerais de faire n'importe quoi, peut-être faire un voyage à vélo, soit aller en Italie, n'importe où, prendre un travail, un taf, ce que je peux travailler un petit peu, gagner de l'argent, juste pour août et septembre. Ensuite, aller commencer le stage en octobre, la thèse en octobre.
Ouais.
Et oui, ça c'est les idées, ce que j'ai. Parce que par exemple, je n'ai pas l'argent d'aller en Thaïlande,
Ouais.
j'arrive en Suède et ensuite, ça veut dire que putain, j'ai pas d'argent, il faut que je bosse.
Ouais, exactement.
Et genre, j'aimerais bien travailler en Italie pour un petit peu parce que je pense que quand je commence la thèse, si je fais ça avec Paola, je serai à Paris encore. Et donc, j'aimerais bien quitter Paris pour l'été.
Ouais.
Explorer un petit peu, trouver un autre lieu et habiter là-bas.
Parce qu'en vrai, mec, c'est pas du tout cher en Thaïlande.
Oh, ouais, pas du tout. Mais le chose cher.
C'est les vols, ouais.
Ouais.
Mais, genre, si tu vas être quelque part d'autre, genre en Italie, toi, tu avais dit que tu veux, genre, travailler. Mais,
Comme n'importe quoi. Genre
ouais.
mais travailler, mais aussi profiter pour intégrer dans la société.
C'est sûr. Mais, par exemple, parce que j'avais pensé au début, si tu vas pas travailler, ça va coûter cher. Même si, par exemple, si tu passes un mois en Italie, ça pourrait être plus cher que prendre le vol pour Thaïlande et vivre là-bas pendant un mois.
Oui, c'est vrai ça.
Parce qu'en vrai, j'ai passé 3 semaines en Colombie et j'ai dépensé genre un peu plus de 1000 balles.
3 semaines
1200.
3 semaines
1200, ouais.
Avec le vol.
Avec les vols, ouais.
Ah oui.
Juste par exemple. Et je sais
C'était
que,
combien de vols? Moitié?
genre 300.
Ah ok. Donc,
Parce que Miami,
ouais.
j'étais déjà à Miami, donc ça a aidé un peu,
Mhm.
c'était moins cher. Mais Miami, Colombie, ça fait genre 120 balles, 150 peut-être.
Ouais.
Ouais.
Intéressant.
Mhm.
Oui, je pense à ça. Parce que oui, d'aller un petit temps, probablement, ce serait 1400.
Et tu serais avec le man.
Ouais, c'est
Donc,
incroyable.
Ouais, donc le truc, c'est que j'ai pas du tout dépensé d'argent cet été, sauf les vols au Liban et en Bosnie. Parce
Mais
que
avec notre voyage en vélo, on a dépensé beaucoup
ouais,
d'argent.
non,
Pas
je
beaucoup,
veux dire après.
Ah, ok,
Ça,
oui,
c'est
oui.
vrai, j'ai dépensé beaucoup d'argent en Italie, plus que j'avais prévu.
Mm.
Mais on a, genre, pour aller, je veux dire, pour les 2 voyages après, je suis allé au Liban et je suis allé en Bosnie et j'ai dépensé presque pas du tout d'argent parce que j'étais avec Mia et Belman.
Ah oui.
Donc,
Ok, donc, ça veut dire qu'ils ont payé pour toutes les affaires?
la famille, ouais. Oui, parce que j'étais avec eux.
Et donc ils
On
ont.
a mangé tous ensemble.
Ah.
C'était genre, si j'avais cherché de payer quelque chose, ils m'allaient dire, mais non, payez pas.
Ah.
Ouais.
Ah ouais.
Donc c'est pour ça que tu vas être en Thaïlande, mais tu vas pas du tout dépenser d'argent.
Oui, c'est vrai. Et aussi, genre, par exemple, prendre un plat, plan de bœuf, Genre, j'avais un pote qui a étudié à Milan, je lui ai dit, mais c'était quoi ta vie quotidienne? Par exemple, t'as cuisiné, qu'est-ce que t'as cuisiné? Il a le supermarché. Après, il m'a dit, bah non, pas du tout. Par exemple, c'était moins cher pour moi d'aller au restaurant pour prendre de bœuf. Et c'était de bonne qualité aussi.
Ouais.
Il m'a dit que c'était genre en
Boeuf,
valeur.
genre beef, ou tu veux
Genre,
dire bouffe.
Bouffe. De bouffe. Et genre, par exemple, entre $1 et $2, c'était beaucoup
Ouais.
de noodles,
Mhm.
de viande, des
Ouais.
légumes,
Ouais.
genre de bœuf thaïlandais,
Mhm.
qui est très bon.
En Bosnie, c'était 4 balles pour une grosse cevapi.
Ah, t'as mangé le vrai cevapi?
Bah oui.
Incroyable. Mais en fait, j'imagine que le cevapi Nutica, c'est un peu, genre, je veux dire, authentique aussi.
Je suis jamais allé chez. Il y a Alden.
C'est qui, c'est un repas
Il était
un repas food?
dans l'année de Carmen.
Ah, je ne le connais pas.
Ouais, il était sur l'équipe de football américain. Et.
Pourquoi? Le Redeemer World Cup?
Non, le football américain.
Où?
Genre, football, like American football.
Ah, ok.
Ouais.
Genre football.
Ouais. Mais lui, son père,
Ouais.
c'est ce que Berlin et Cedo, ils ont dit que son père fait le meilleur cevapi en Utica. J'ai jamais mangé ça. Mais je suis allé à Café Hummus par exemple. Et,
C'est où ça?
Café Hummus, c'est à Mohawk Street. C'est vraiment à côté de chez toi. Mais
Ah oui,
ça
non, je
existe
connais.
plus. Ils ont changé le nom. Et maintenant, c'est pas les Bosniaques, c'est les Albaniens qui le gèrent.
On sait les Albaniens? C'est cool ça.
Ouais.
Ça,
Miss
c'est de-
Mullen,
Oui.
elle est albanienne.
Qui?
Miss Mullen, chez Proctor.
Elle a fait histoire.
Oui.
Je pense qu'elle a genre, enseigné aussi à JFK. Je pense que.
Peut-être, je sais pas.
Non, je ne le connais pas. Je ne veux pas.
Bah, en tout cas, il y a des Albaniens à Utica.
C'est
Mais mec, écoute, le cevapi que j'ai mangé à
4
Bosnie,
euros. Non, pas euros.
4 balles, ouais. 4 dollars. Des fois, c'était un peu moins cher, même. Mais, mec, c'était
Trop bon.
cevapi de ouf, mec.
Oui.
C'était trop bon. La quantité était très grande.
Ouais.
Il y avait les sauces qui étaient mélangées. Mais le truc qui m'a frappé beaucoup,
Oui.
c'était pas le cevapi soi-même, mais le pain qui vient avec, mec.
Ah oui.
Oh putain.
Le pain, c'était incroyable.
Oh putain, mec.
Ah
C'était vraiment surprenant. Ça
Ah oui?
m'a stupéfié.
Oui, ça, c'est un peu pas partout. Parce que pour moi, le pain problème meilleur, c'est le pain français, soit le pain.
Non, c'est pas le meilleur pain du monde,
Mais quand même, ça.
la diff, c'était que aux États-Unis, quand tu manges, enfin, au Utica, quand tu manges du cevapi, c'est avec genre juste un pita bread. Et
Ah
c'est
oui.
pareil en Bosnie, mais c'est juste la pita bread que tu trouves
Ah,
au supermarché
c'est
américain, un truc comme ça.
Ah oui.
Et le pita bread que tu as avec les cevapi en Bosnie, c'est
Ah oui.
vraiment de ouf.
Ah oui, c'est cool
Ouais,
ça.
C'était malade.
Il faut que j'y aille.
Et je suis allé avec, j'ai oublié le nom, mais je suis allé avec Andrea.
Balmain? Ah oui. Ok.
Je suis
fait,
allé avec Andrea.
T'as le vu avant que moi? Moi, je l'ai pas vu depuis j'étais à Utica.
Ouais,
Elle me manque.
très
Mais
sympa.
continue. Très sympa. Faut
Ouais.
que, en vrai, elle m'a dit qu'elle serait à Paris pour octobre, mais enfin, on ne peut pas
Faut
venir.
parler.
Ouais.
Ouais,
J'ai oublié pourquoi.
c'est dommage.
Ouais.
Elle était malade, elle m'a dit. Parce que
Ah
j'ai
oui.
demandé.
Ah oui, elle était à l'Europe encore. Oui, elle était malade. Oui. Triste.
Ouais, dommage. Et puis j'étais à Utica, mais je lui ai head up le dernier jour que j'étais là-bas. J'avais pas pensé. Et la prochaine fois.
La prochaine fois.
Après. Elle m'a dit qu'elle va être en Europe, en tout cas, bientôt. Donc.
Oui, en fait, elle cherche de faire le même. Je pense qu'on a
Tarif.
parlé de le tarif.
Mais je sais pas si elle continue à apprendre le français.
En fait, ça me dérange parce que je lui ai dit, appelle-moi, on peut parler le français. Et ensuite, on ne s'est pas parlé depuis quelques mois.
C'est possible qu'elle te déteste.
Oui. Salope.
Bon,
C'est mauvais ça. Elle est
mais
ma pote.
tu connais Burak?
C'est qui?
Burak, c'est la
En lui? Ah non, je connais pas.
Burak, c'est genre. On a besoin d'un génie, vraiment, avec un écran. où
Ouais,
on
peut le chercher. Ouais.
Mais
Bonjour.
c'est genre. C'est dans la forme d'une. Genre cinnamon, mais c'est pas cinnamon du tout, c'est du pain. Et puis, il y a. Burak, c'est avec de la viande, mais il y a aussi Krompir, ça veut dire pomme de terre. Il y a
Krompir.
Krompir,
Earth apples.
Earth apples.
Vraiment?
Non.
C'est juste apple.
Il y avait genre Yabuka, ça
Ouais.
c'est apple. Fucking. Genre il y avait le boulak, c'était la chose que j'ai découvert, qui était nouveau pour moi, qui était trop bon en Bosnie. Et ils ont des boulangeries, je dis boulangerie, mais c'est pas vraiment comme les boulangeries de la France, ça s'appelle pekara. Et dans les pekara, il y a c'est plus savory que les boulangeries ici. Il y a genre,
Bah, les produits du pain.
oui,
Mais il n'y a pas de viennoiserie avec des sucres, soit les pâtisseries avec genre des desserts, quoi. C'est juste.
ça existe, mais
moins
pas
dans le
beaucoup.
fait.
Moi,
Ok.
moi d'ici, et les spécialités sont genre, ils ont, je sais pas, genre, ouais, du pain. C'est plus salé qu'ici, même qu'ici. Et c'est hyper bon. Et les pekara sont vachement bons. Mais oui, c'était une très bonne expérience d'être là-bas.
Franchement, je dois y aller.
Ouais.
Genre, parce que je pense que ça, c'est la culture plus influentielle de Utica que je connais.
Ouais, sauf les Italiens, mec.
Sauf les Italiens, oui, bien sûr. Genre, après, oui, oui. Parce que lui, genre.
Parce que la vie là-bas, c'est si simple. Surtout dans les... si tu y vas à un village. Il faut passer du temps dans un village. Aussi, Sarajevo, c'était une très belle ville. J'ai aimé. Mais les villages, la vie est tellement simple. C'est juste, on se réveille, on boit du café, on se promenade dans la forêt, on joue avec les chiens de la village.
Ah oui?
Ouais. Et
Ouais.
il y a 2 magasins dans le village de
Qu'est-ce qu'elle fait qu'on travaille? Genre.
Qui?
Des personnes.
Ils ont des vaches, ils ont des crops.
Ouais.
Ouais.
Ah, c'est cool ça.
C'est tellement simple.
Ouais.
Ouais. Ils chop du bois.
Nice.
On a passé.
Yo.
Salut Ben.
Ça va?
Salut.
Salut.
Ça va?
Ouais, enchanté. Comment?
Joyeux
Oui,
Noël.
joyeux Noël.
Mec, tu fais quoi?
Moi j'étais chez ma petite amie et comme j'avais des affaires à prendre, je suis venu dormir ici ce soir.
Ah, ok, cool. Mais ne touche pas parce qu'on était exposé à Billy qui a le Covid.
Ah, ok.
Ouais.
Alors je reste là.
On ne peut pas s'embrasser.
D'accord.
Mais si tu veux manger, on peut.
J'ai mangé toute la journée.
Ah, ok, très bien.
C'est chouette.
Ça a été?
Ouais, cool.
Très bien.
J'arrive, je me change, je me douche et je viens.
Ok, bonne douche.
Très bien.
C'est loin.
Waouh.
Mais oui.
Cool. Incroyable.
Bon,
Donc, le Covid, tu kiffes?
tu kiffes pas le Covid toi-même, en soi. Ça me plaît pas.
Mais des autres perspectives du Covid, par exemple, tu kiffes? Genre les autres.
Je dois dire que pour moi, la qualité de vie n'a pas diminué et c'est possible que même ça a augmenté parce que je peux bosser de la maison maintenant.
Ouais.
Il y a. Je sais pas.
Genre, je dirais, en général, il y a des façons où le Covid a augmenté la qualité de ma vie, mais enfin, parfois, ça casse les couilles, quoi.
Ouais. Ouais, c'est vrai. Genre maintenant, par exemple.
Par exemple,
Cette
vraiment,
situation ici.
vraiment, ça, la première fois que ça m'a donné beaucoup de. Genre, pas envie d'être dans des situations avec le Covid, quoi.
Ouais.
Donc, moi, par exemple, après d'avoir parlé, je sais pas pour combien de temps on s'est parlé.
3 heures peut-être, je sais
Bon,
pas.
j'ai aucune idée. Mais je pense qu'à cause de ça, ma ventre et aussi ma tête, c'est assez vide. Et la bière m'a beaucoup influencé.
Ouais, moi aussi.
Ouais.
Je suis au même niveau.
On va faire la raclette.
On va faire ça demain, je pense.
Qu'est-ce que tu veux faire ce soir?
On
la
a
pâte.
des pâtes et les lardons.
Ah oui. Oui.
Bon, on termine ça.
On arrête.
Merci à tous d'être ici.
Chouette.
Nice. Damn, this stop.